mentality of trolls. Viewers, that's how deprecatory, haughtily dismissive, and worst of all, condescending is this filmmaker who calls herself a representative of the freedom of expression. In other words, if you are a devout Hindu of the goddess and can't imagine her depicted smoking and eating meat, as many Hindus can't, then you have no right to protest. Because if you do, you become a low-life troll. Now, viewers, this is absurdly hypocritical on two counts. Firstly, if Leena Manimekalai is truly a supporter of free speech, then why is she raging against those who are expressing their disagreement with her? The qualities of intolerance that she's exhibiting are associated, viewers, either with very insecure people or with the enemies of free speech. Now, second, as you have seen over the last few days, many Muslims have reacted angrily to how Nupur Sharma imagined their prophet. Now, if protesting Hindus are trolls, then would the filmmaker describe protesting Muslims as trolls too? This is a moot question. Will Leena Manimekalai describe them as a mob or low-life mafia? The answer is no, she won't. She won't dare to, because she knows that she might very realistically lose her head, just like Kanhaiya and Kole. In fact, this question was posed to her and she dodged. No, actually, she obfuscated and obfuscated and obfuscated. Here's what I mean. Let me read what she said in a recent interview to another magazine that is sympathetic to her cause. The question was, would you show other gods this way? It's obvious, viewers, what is implied in this question. Leena's answer: I'm an atheist who believes in science. I'm interested in faith and folklore as an artist. According to Marx, religion is the opium of the people. Periyar said, purpose of being God lost if he created an unjust society. Ambedkar said, religion which denies individual primacy is unacceptable. As a cultural worker, I want to reclaim my body, sexuality, text, folklore. She said all of this, viewers, all of this. What the hell is she saying? It is a simple question. Why are you making it so complicated? Why can't she just answer the question without padding her reply with this mumbo jumbo? Viewers, I don't know what she's smoking. I don't know. But it doesn't end there. In an act of extreme provocation, Ms. Manimekalai has also trolled India, if you please. Now, it's all very sophomoric, viewers, all of this. She's saying with scorn that the largest democracy is becoming the largest hate machine. But first, let's go over what Leena Manimekalai's Twitter tirade is all about. Let me take you word for word. She says, feels like the whole nation has now deteriorated from the largest democracy to the largest hate machine. Now, can't give up artistic freedom fearing right-wing mob mafia. Low-life trolls tweeted the poster they find objectionable. Kaali can't be lynched, raped, destroyed. She is the goodness of death. Hindutva can never become India. BJP troll army have no idea about how folk theatre artists chill. Sangh wants to destroy this with relentless hate and religious bigotry. Viewers, let's examine Leena Manimekalai's charge that India is now, yes, now, becoming the largest hate machine. Many independent observers have pointed out that this charge is also self-servingly duplicitous. Ms. Leena is either ignorant or is deliberately forgetting to recall dark episodes in our history when Hindus were targeted by bigots. These attacks had nothing to do with Hindutva or Sanghis. Let me take you through these attacks. Viewers, since 1989, estimated 219 Hindus have been murdered, and this, let me tell you, is one of the most conservative estimates. 1998, 23 Hindus were massacred in Vandhama. 2003, 24 Hindus were murdered in Nadimalk. 2006, 35 Hindus massacred in Doda. Let's have a look at Khalistani terror. 1987, 34 Hindus massacred on a bus in Hisar. 1991, 125 people massacred near Ludhiana. They were pulled out, segregated, shot dead. 1991, 55 people, mostly Hindus, killed in Sohia. There is the Marit Jhapi massacre in Bengal. 1979, 1,700 persecuted Bangladeshis, Hindus killed. Refugees had fled to Bengal under communist rule. Then there was the horror of partition. Estimated 1 million killed in retributive genocide. Mopla massacre of 1921-22. Thousands of Hindus killed and forcibly converted. So viewers, how is it then? When these incidents took place, no one, especially on the left, said that India was becoming the largest hate machine. That's because in all those times, India was ruled by so-called left liberal governments, and the ecosystem that rages against the NDA was very cozy with them. But beyond this, viewers, one of the biggest temples dedicated to goddess Kaali has condemned the filmmaker's original poster. Will Leena, many make a lie, also dismiss the priests of the Dakshineshwar Kaali temple as hateful trolls? This is what the priests have said. Many places where worship is done with wine, but what is shown in poster is not acceptable. We strongly condemn this incident. Viewers, there is so much hypocrisy tonight that we need to pass through. But we must not allow it to go uncommented, because that would be allowing, viewers, anyone who doesn't agree with you, dismissing you as a troll. That is such an undignified way of trying to kill conversation or even the spirit of democracy. Let's open this up. Let me go straight across to Sushmita Dev, Member of Parliament, National Spokesperson of the TMC, Sanjay Jha, Shahzad Poonawala, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Tehseen Poonawala, Mohandas Pai, Chairman of Aryan Capital, Sushil Pandit, they're all with us. Good evening, everybody. Now let me first begin with Sanjay Sir. Sir, do you agree with Leena Mekalai that those hurt by Leena's posters are right-wing mob mafia low-life trolls? Mr. Jha.
Oh, you're addressing me. I thought you were going to Miss Sushmita. That's what I heard. Rahul, first and foremost, one of the things that I would like to state at the very beginning is that while everybody has a creative license to articulate their philosophy, one should be very sensitive to the religious sensibilities of the ecosystem that one lives in. So I strongly condemn any attempt by anyone, whether it's deliberate or inadvertent, that cannot be endorsed. Now, to answer your question, forget, I don't need to take a reference of what Leena has tweeted, etc. I've debated this with you on your program for the last several years. And I stand by my own personal convictions that the BJP's pernicious politics, Rahul, has polarized society. When Mr. Modi talked of Make in India, I thought he was going to talk about, the development of this country. In fact, Make in India has become the industrialization of India. And I feel disturbed today. You know something, Rahul? On your show, we have talked about the horrific decapitation in Devi. On your show, we have talked about the horrific lynching murders that have happened since 2014 in particular. Are these the legacy that Mr. Modi and his government behind? I'm sure Shehzad at some point want to respond to. We are all citizens of this great country. And my question is anybody happy here with the viciousness, the venom, the vituperative hate, and the virulent conversations we have. I think somewhere these are manifestations of our own failures. I don't care what Leena says or Washington Post says or New York Times
Mr.
says.
Jha, we are debating what Leena is saying. Because today there are many people who believe in what Leena is saying. They belong to a particular ecosystem also. And therefore, let's restrict ourselves to not some large debate full of generalities. I'm speaking now in particularities, sir. Do you believe if there is some devout Hindu out there who has a problem with this poster and he protests, then that Hindu is under some influence of some RSS Hindutva, or does he actually have the right to speak up without being called a low-life troll? It's a simple question, sir. Again, you are behaving like Leena Memikalai, who has spun this big motherhood statement.
Rahul,
This motherhood statement, sir, that you've just made about hate and all that. Look, I can ask you about what happened under the Congress in the Union capital when Sikhs were brutally attacked because there was reprisal. Several unfortunate incidents have happened under Congress rules, governments in Kashmir, exodus, butchery against one particular religion, the Hindus. You had Punjab, segregated killings, Sikhs and Hindus. I mean, you know, some could say that your politics was equally venomous. You created the Bhindranwales, you created the circumstances in Kashmir by getting rid of governments. Now we can go down all of that. Or today we fight for the right of even a Hindu, even if he is an RSS, Shakha, Sanghi Hindu, to stand up and say, look, I don't like the way you're depicting my goddess. Is that okay?
Rahul, can I answer you?
Yeah.
Rahul, can I answer you?
Yeah.
I do believe that everyone who's offended by the documentary Leena Marikamalai was making has every right to feel offended,
okay,
has
so
every right to protest.
Will you say that Leena Memikalai, or whatever her name is being extremely condescending, extremely dogmatic, extremely exclusionary, extremely intolerant by dismissing the feelings of even a Shehzad Poonawalla today as that of a low-life troll?
Well, Rahul, I want to tell you, we
Yes,
can't
no.
have duplicitous. 1 minute, let me finish. We can't have double standards. We can't be duplicitous. I have come on your show. I have been critical, very critical of the ugly hate, bigotry of the BJP and the
Right,
RSS.
but I'm only asking you, sir, do you believe what Leena is saying is also reverse bigotry, reverse intolerance, extreme condescension, and a superciliousness, undeserving of someone who speaks up for freedom of expression? Just asking that simple question. Why but and kintu and parantu? Just answer me.
Rahul, let me tell you, if you have been hearing me, that's exactly what I've said 100 times over already.
So you find Leena to be haughty,
she cannot,
haughty,
no, 1 minute. It's not just about her. Nobody has
intolerant,
the luxury
dogmatic,
in what I call as double speak. Let's leave it at that.
So
no double speak.
you're not going to cast her in any of these terms, but you don't agree with her. Fair enough.
I already said she's being hypocritical.
Hypocritical. Fine. That's the most extreme.
I don't have to use the words you use.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I agree with you. At least you've come out, put your money where your mouth is, and called her a hypocrite. Well, that's the purpose of all of this, isn't it, viewers? Because that's what I tried to call out by giving you some hard facts at the beginning of the show. Shehzad Poonawalla, to the rest of what Mr. Sanjay Jha has said, because I'll come to the second aspect with the TMC about her, this lady, this filmmaker calling India the largest hate machine. I'll come to that. But let's first talk a little bit about how this filmmaker has dismissed every Hindu as some low-life troll.
You see, Rahul, the irony is that when Bhiwandi, Jalgaon, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Nelli, Hashimpura, Bhagalpur, Meerut, Meliana and Delhi happened, that time India was not a hate factory, but today suddenly India has become a hate factory. Look at the hypocrisy. If somebody says that for a particular comment, मैं सर तन से जुदा कर दूंगा, well, that is said and condoned and considered kosher. And in fact, it is said that person should not have made such comments because such reactions were evoked. But those who are pursuing a legal recourse or even just expressing that they felt hurt by the poster, which by the way even the TMC has done through its official handle, all of these people including the TMC handles and those from the TMC who objected to this poster have been now categorized as low-life trolls. This is because there is a chalan, there is a practice in this country abusing Hindus is secular, bashing Bharat is progressive, calling Hindutva names is liberal and democracy is dead is fighting fascism day in and day out. Now I have a limited point. I don't consider Leena to be significant. We all know where her script is coming from. Her script is coming from an ecosystem that emboldens her. And who is part of this ecosystem? Those who said Shri Ram doesn't exist, those who give affidavits to that effect, those who say Ram Mandir should not be built, those who say Hindutva is ISIS and Boko Haram, those who say Hindu terror exists but never call out Islamic jihad. And finally, last point that I want to make, look, Mahua Mitra and all of these people are serial offenders. Whether it's her comments on the Shivling, whether it's her comments on Chotiwala Rakshas, whether it's Sayoni Ghosh's comments and tweets, whether it is Kunal Ghosh's comments on Ma Sita. In fact, Sushmita Dev was not even in their party at that time. All of these comments reflect a trend that Hinduओं का करो अपमान ताकि मिले वोट बैंक की दुकान. And because of this vote bank की दुकान, today no action has been taken by Mamata Banerjee, and therefore this ecosystem is in a sense emboldening Leena. It is emboldening Mahua Mitra. Look at the two differences. On one part, one person made a statement. She has been removed from the primary membership of the party. The Bengal police issues 3 lookout circulars for her. But on the other part, today Mamata Banerjee, leave alone asking for the arrest or taking action on her within the party, says it's a mistake, choti moti galti ho jati hai. So this hypocrisy is the reason why Leena and her ilk find the script and the wherewithal to make these comments.
Okay, so there is, you're saying, a premeditated design that she is at this moment somebody who is being put up to do all of this. Is that what you're saying? Oh, emboldened. Okay, fair enough. Let me bring in Sushmita Dev now. Ms. Dev, thank you for taking the time out. Let me ask you some basic questions. Number one, the TMC has come out and condemned. They've used the word condemned. We condemn these remarks by your own MP, your own fellow colleague in Parliament, when she sort of, in perhaps a larger context, when prompted about Leena Menakalai's tweets, supported her by coming out with, you know, her own take on how we should imagine the goddess, etc. Now, if you've taken offense to what your own MP has said in the context of what the filmmaker has said, are you low-life trolls that were pursuing some Hindutva agenda, or were you just speaking out of concern for Hindu sensitivities which you might think have been or could be offended? Basic question.
Mahua was on a show and she was asked for her views on a certain poster which we are all debating today, and she gave her views. That obviously invoked a public reaction, you know, which required the party to distance itself, because it should not be mistaken as the views of the parties. But you see, I'll tell you something. When comments like this are made on any platform, on a television show, or in a public rally, how the courts will look at it, how a political party that you belong to look at it, are two different issues. Now, what the courts will say, whether it's violation of 295A or no, that only time will tell once it goes to court. But as far as a political party is concerned, we are not supposed to look into the criminality of what Mahua Mitra said, okay, but looking at the sentiments it invoked. I think the need of the hour was for us to distance ourselves and make it clear that that was not the briefing that she had from the party, neither was that comment made after a discussion with the party. And I also believe that what she said, I watched it again and again, you know, because I was also in that conclave the day before, and she went there the next day. I think it's it's the way it was said.
Okay.
It's the way it was said, and I think it's for the courts to look at it, whether it attracts 295A or no, whether it was deliberate, whether it was malicious, whether it was to make
just need one more clarification from you.
We can't get into it.
Okay, one more clarification, Ms. Dev. See, your party has not just distanced itself. You've actually tagged her comments as condemnable. I can read out the statement, condemnable. Now, if they're worthy of such condemnation, why hasn't she been suspended from your party? The BJP, remember, and the government also condemned Nupur, describing her as a fringe element, rightly or wrongly, laughably or not, that's a different matter. Dismissed it as a fringe element's outpouring, but also suspended her, setting an example. Now, you can say it was an example, one too late, etc., but never too late to make a beginning somewhere. So I'm asking you, Ms. Dev, why didn't you suspend Ms. Moitra? Why weren't you arrested, Ms. Moitra? You've demanded the arrest of Nupur Sharma, but none of this has happened under your watch in Bengal.
Let me make it clear. When the comments like this are made, I'm repeating myself, how a political party will react to it and how the law will react to it are very different.
No, but you condemned it, right? You condemned it. So if it was condemnable, then why is it not suspendable also?
We condemned it in capital letters. Let me also say that. I saw the tweet myself.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we have to prosecute her for it, because it may not amount to criminality. That's for the courts to look at it.
But the BJP did. The BJP suspended their spokesperson, even though no court has pronounced.
Rahul, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
Let her just finish up. Let her finish 30 seconds.
She can then combine answer it. Just 5 seconds.
Okay.
Take 5 seconds.
Okay.
She's saying we have to make
answer Shaila.
Okay,
no, madam, we know that your arrogance is on the 7th floor. You're the ruling party of West Bengal. Please have the courtesy to respond to somebody who's in opposition. That's how a democracy works. This is not the way debates and democracy work, ma'am. This is not how it works.
Okay, one second.
Let me take you down from your stool of arrogance.
One second.
Rahul, I have all the right to ask a question.
I know. Just 1 second. 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Rahul, don't cow down to a bully.
I'm not cowing to anybody, and neither do I want to be told what I should be doing on my show. Please, 1 minute. No, 1 second.
That she talks to the opposition in this manner.
1 second.
This is unbecoming.
Mr. Punawala, Mr. Punawala, 30 seconds.
This is intolerant and undemocratic and unbecoming of debate.
Very quickly, I just want to ask you, you are wanting to have Nupur Sharma arrested. No court of law has held her guilty as of now. But you are not invoking the same principle against your own spokesperson, who you have condemned in capital letters. Why? Simple question.
You know, Rahul, let me tell you something. I think your viewers are in a very good position to make a comparison between what Nupur Sharma had to say and what Mahua said.
Right.
You know, if what she said is
so
improper...
So both were condemnable, but one won't be arrested and the other will be arrested, perhaps because the other one belongs to the opposition party in Bengal.
And I repeat myself that the party has also said that if there is any criminal complaint against Mahua, she'll have to deal with it herself.
There is not just one, there are 50 cases against her. Maybe you haven't been
the jury is out there.
Okay, jury's out there, fair enough. Jury's out there, yes, Mr. Shahzad Punawala. Jury's out there, she says.
Rahul, and I hope that unlike in West Bengal, at least your show, I can voice my opinion without being killed for it. So let me make my points in 30 seconds. First of all, she said there should be a distinction between political and the legal. Chief Minister of West Bengal is a constitutional position, and I quote her statement. Mamata Banerjee condemns the remarks made by the BJP leader, and she said that if you play with fire, you should be arrested. Now, if the constitutional post holder can reach a legal conclusion and a political conclusion in this particular matter, why is she unable to reach the same conclusion in another matter, particularly belonging to her own party? And by the way, FIRs or complaints have been filed in Bengal. Bengal can issue 3344 lookout notices for one person who has been suspended from the primary membership of the party, but can't do the same thing for this because the comments in this case have been made against Hindu deities and the comments in that case have been made against the vote bank community. So is this because of vote bank that you are not taking this action and not taking this stand?
Well, the legitimate question coming your way, Ms. Sen, vote bank politics preventing you from taking the next logical step that you have demanded in Nupur Sharma's case, which has a clear parallel.
You know, Shahzad, let me tell you something. If you want to fight it that way, then let me tell you something. Dilip Ghosh, 1.5 years back, in India today conclave से दुर्गा का माँ बाप कौन है वो कहाँ से आया?
You are
आपने
free
कोई
to
एक्शन
pursue all
लिया?
legal actions against
So
everybody
please,
you want, but this is called filibustering, deviation, obfuscation, which I think you have more, you have more content than to resort to deviation.
And Assam, where people are encountered. Assam is known as the encounter government because people have come to power.
You know, Ms.
So I
Dev,
don't want to
Ms.
engage
Dev,
in your,
you seem so lost on a cogent argument that all you can resort to is low-level whataboutery. Can you please answer the specific question that if the Chief Minister of West Bengal considered somebody's comments worthy of arrest, what is stopping her from taking a similar position, or she should not have taken a position on that? Either of the two, condemn her for taking a position on that, or say when you're taking a position on this.
And I think the viewers are intelligent enough to understand.
They are very intelligent, madam, and therefore you make no sense to them. They are very intelligent, hence you make no sense to them. Hence you make no sense to them.
Well, let me just come in here for 30 seconds. Viewers, look, we can't have two different yardsticks to judge individuals who are, at least in the eyes of the public, guilty of the same crime, which is hurting sentiments on religious grounds. Now, if one party chooses to pay lip service to the cause and the other goes ahead and suspends, even though many will ask why hasn't Nupur Sharma been arrested till now by the Delhi police, that's a legitimate question which we'll get Shadad to answer in just a few moments. I'm sure people like Tehseen Poonawalla, who represent the Congress point of view and who have been banging on that, will ask, I'm sure. But let me open this up further. On the point, Mohandas Pai, on the point, Mr. Pandit, on the point, Mr. Poonawalla, Tehseen Poonawalla, let me ask you, Mr. Pai. Leena has called India largest hate machine, new. The India of today, the India of now. Do you agree with this?
You know, Rahul, there are demented minds who are of no consequence, who are irrelevant, who take pleasure in abusing people constantly to draw attention to themselves and create a victimhood narrative, like this person who made this silly film and that MP who has a track record of being abusive for a long period of time. Normally, we'll all ignore them and just say, okay, just laugh at them and ignore them because they are not no consequence. But in this case, there is a very serious issue in this country where they're all piling on another person who made a particular statement which possibly that person should not have made because it is a very sensitive issue. And they all want to punish her. They all want to go after her. And you have this big jihadi mob saying, we're going to cut off your neck, offering money and sometimes money, threats all through. And these people are keeping quiet. These people have no principles. They're taking political considerations and they are one-sided and they are insensitive to the needs of the people. Now, if you go to the voters of this country and talk to them, they will get offended. But are they going to say, cut off that person's neck? They will not, because they're all peaceful people, not like the jihadi mob. Now, all I want to say is the hypocrisy of one part of people who support the silly statements is thoroughly exposed. I think all of us should stand for principles. Okay. And if you don't stand for principles, people know what you stand for, and they will decide when they go for the voting block. I'm surprised that my friend Sanjay Jha, who goes on making irrelevant statement, one-sided. You know, people of this country are watching this. If 140 crore people in this country are called trolls, are called hate machines, a country of 1.4 billion people, just because some people are against you, they don't like what you're saying and you're abusive, you show the mentality and the demented state of mind of that person.
Okay.
Make such comments, right?
Let me.
You know, I think you know, we should just brush them aside and ignore them, because I'm sure this person in Canada is trying to prepare the ground now to go to the Canadian government and seek refuge, to say that if you go back to India, I'm going to get prosecuted, this hate machine against you.
Oh, so you're saying it's either publicity or she's been put up to it, or she's actually trying to emigrate. Oh, that's very interesting. Let me ask Mr. Tehseen Poonawalla. Sanjay Jha must also pay attention. Mr. Pandit is listening in. Leena Manimekalai has never hidden her disregard for the Prime Minister. On 13th September 2013, at 9:16 p.m. on Facebook, she says, I will surrender my passports, ration card, PAN card, and my citizenship if ever Modi becomes this country's PM in my lifetime, I swear. Why shouldn't people believe that she's part of the larger Congress or whatever ecosystem out there, the Latvians ecosystem, some will say, to actually create some kind of doubt in the international community and others in this country that Modi and his government is intolerant, fascist, and will actually impose some kind of Hindutva. Why shouldn't we, given her track record and her statements, believe this?
Namaskar, Rahul. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Namaskar to all my fellow panelists and to your viewers. Very pertinent question you ask. Why shouldn't you believe this? Fair point. If there exists, whatever the terms you use, latent, Khan market, ecosystem, does the Honorable Home Minister of India have the spine of a molten eclair that he cannot break it? Now, 8 years he's been in power. Stop blaming the opposition. Stand up, own up, and take some responsibility. The BJP spokesperson here in the studio with me is patting his back and saying, oh, we acted against the BJP spokeswoman. No, you did not act against her until your government cowed down with its tail between its legs when countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan started lecturing India. You were scared of countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, and that's what forced you to take action, my friend. Do not come here and lie to the citizens of India, because we are not fools. If you were serious about taking actions, if you believe 1% in the unity and integrity of India, the first person you would have taken action against was, as Sushmita Dev said, against Dilip Ghosh. You would have taken action against Adityanath ji, who was telling us the caste of Hanuman ji. You would have taken action against Mahesh Sharma ji, who was insulting Masita on the floor of the House. You wouldn't have taken Naresh Agarwal in your party, who on the floor of the House said such derogatory things that Arun Jaitley had to get up and said, this man should be arrested. Far from being arrested, you took him in the party and gave his relatives tickets. So you are hypocrisy ki jo seema, as Modi ji says. To the second point that I want to speak about, this filmmaker. Look, Rahul, any film, any poster is not an act of coincidence. It's an act of science and design. The fact is that this poster was put out there to generate a reaction. If art, and I don't believe art should be censored, I don't believe news channels should be censored, but the intention should be seen. If the intention is only cheap publicity in social media,
what do you think it was?
Social media,
what do you think it was?
I'm coming to that. Exactly what I'm coming to. If you think if the intention is social media publicity, social media attraction, it deserves to be condemned. But here comes the second hypocrisy.
No, so I'm asking you, didn't answer my question. Do you think this was born out of a publicity stunt?
In a country where we have the economy shrinking, where we have the prime minister that's disappeared, the only thing we're discussing is a poster about a fictional movie that will not release.
Because it has the potential. You know, there was a MP from the TMC yesterday, and they said we won't act till, you know, there hasn't been that kind of outrage. The implication was till people didn't take to the streets, burn cars, perhaps go out there and hurt other people physically. There's no real need to arrest Mahua Moitra. Just trying to tell you. And I think you might have actually heard those comments. So
that's exactly
I'm asking you this. I want you to tell me, do you believe that this lady, and we are not here to, you know, crucify anybody, but since you're getting into the intent, was she here to deliberately provoke?
If her intent was to bring about a societal change, she would have, with the controversy generated, come out and explain what that poster means. The fact that she's going on provoking is she's enjoying this attention, and therein is my problem.
Is it just attention?
It is attention because to get publicity for the movie. And let me tell you one thing.
You didn't dismiss. Nupur Sharma was also on a channel, not just one, in 3 channels,
yes,
where she also said pretty much the same thing. Of course, it's only we who get singled out for it, but that's fine. I'm willing to live with that because that's the way the ecosystem works. They always want to other something. But that's fine. I just want to ask you, Tehseen Poonawalla, and this is an important one. Why didn't you give such a rationalized response? Oh, just a publicity hound seeking her, you know, 13 minutes of fame. Why did you make it about an insult to communities, etc., and give this filmmaker such a big wide berth? Oh, she was just trying to sell a film. And why are you guys getting so hot up and bothered, just like Shashi Tharoor said?
I am not. On the contrary, I'm saying the reverse, Rahul.
No, you're not.
I am saying...
You're actually dismissing her as some trivial, you know, person trying to peddle a movie.
Sure. Yeah, I heard you. Allow me to rebut you.
Please.
I am saying exactly the opposite. I am saying that if there is freedom of speech, that must exist for everybody. If somebody transgresses... please allow me to finish. If somebody transgresses on the law, let the law take its course. Slogans like "Sar tan se juda" or "Desh ke gaddaron ko goli maro" should be condemned. And
she said those people who are objecting to these the poster, they're trolls. That's what she's saying.
So is
do you
she
agree
saying
with
that
it?
the mainstream political parties...
No, do you agree
the
with it? Do you
TMC,
think those outraging against Nupur Sharma also low-life trolls? Simple question to you. Are they low-life trolls, Tehseen Poonawalla?
No one has a right to threaten Nupur Sharma. No one has a right to threaten...
I'm only asking you, are those people outraging low-life trolls?
They have no right to threaten Nupur. They have no right to threaten the filmmaker. But what the filmmaker is saying is she's deliberately going on provoking. And here's my problem with the TMC.
So she's deliberately provoking, and she's provoking. She's provoking by using Hindu iconography. I want to ask you, why isn't she provoking using the iconography of other religions?
That you should ask the BJP.
So what do you think? No, I'm asking you. Why do you think? Is it because Hindus are soft targets? Is it because Hindus are soft targets?
I don't think anyone should be a soft target. I think freedom of speech must allow deliberations and questions on everybody.
He's
acting like Steve Jobs out there, posing like Steve Jobs, but that's not the point.
That's not the point. You see, here,
freedom of speech
Sanjay Jha, now listen. Sanjay Jha, now listen to Tehseen Poonawalla. Okay? Listen to what Tehseen Poonawalla says. He's got something clearly you don't have.
When you have freedom of speech.
He doesn't have my beard.
No, I'm talking about your. I'm talking about your. No, 1 second. I'm just talking about your integrity. Yeah. That's all.
Well, I just want to make one point, and let me repeat that again. And this is a tragedy of any society that is fractured down the middle, which is there are fundamentalists on both sides of the spectrum. And let me tell you, Rahul, we will all suffer as a society with this kind of extremism, even of the hand.
So there are fundamentalists in the TMC that found what Mahua Moitra said condemnable. Well, Sanjay Jha, I don't know how far you're going to plumb this. I don't know. But let me just bring in Shehzad Poonawalla to respond to Tehseen Poonawalla, and I want to bring in Mr. Pandit right after.
I just had a revelation that Sushil Pandit, who got tormented by his killers, and now today if Sushil Pandit opens his mouth, he becomes clubbed with those Islamist jihadists as fundamentalists. This is the argument Sanjay Jha and even Tehseen are making.
Rationalization, I call it.
They are putting the killer of Sushil Pandit and Sushil Pandit who is saying mujhe mat maro, both together and saying both are fundamentalists. Both are low-life trolls. This is their argument. This is the hypocrisy which people are revolting towards.
I am absolutely clear. When Sushil Pandit went to the Honorable Supreme Court, what did your government do? Why didn't it represent them? Why didn't it give them justice? You have come here. You should go and see what Rajiv Gandhi and Farooq Abdullah did, putting friendship before country.
Farooq
Abdullah did this, Rajiv Gandhi did that. Can you get out of your speak about at least tell us what you have done for this country except taking this country backward? Why don't you act?
Can discuss that also.
You are the one who removed the topic, not me, sir. I did not remove the topic, sir. Since you removed, what has your government done for Kashmiri Pandits? It's done nothing for Kashmiri Pandits.
Congress leader, one has suspended logic. Both of them are in suspension.
At least a suspended logic is better than a destroyed economy and hate that you manufacture, sir.
Okay. Mr. Pandit, you know a little bit about the India of the 80s. You lived through certain times and the 90s. Why is it that one side is only now linking India to hate, that to Hindutva hate, when we have seen all forms of other hate, directed, of course, against Hindus also? Why is there this cherry picking, selectivity?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing me in, and I think it is a very relevant question that you've asked. Because through the 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s, we have raised a very big harvest of deracinated, rootless Indians who now feel that they need an identity. And when they go searching for an identity, they look for, what very often we read on food packets, nature identical flavorings. They pick up iconography, they pick up names, they pick up concepts, they layer it over themselves in order to flaunt some kind of creativity. Till few days back, you didn't even know this individual existed, Mani Mekhalai or whatever her name is. And for the last few days, she's been dominating our primetime shows. You had to dredge her Twitter timeline to figure out what her politics is and what her other opinions are. The problem is that we have a huge number of such Indians floating. I don't want to use it as an abuse or invective as she uses for the rest of us. But this is a fact. However, I'm thankful to her. This unseemly intervention in our social or political discourse has helped bring about the hypocrisy of the stands we take, about the politics we conduct day in and day out, the double standards we use for one similar case versus the other. So to that extent, she has inadvertently served some purpose to again underscore the hypocritical stands we take, the double standard politics we conduct. But as far as she is concerned, as far as this filmmaker is concerned, she represents a vast multitude of those Indians who are a product of a broken education system, a broken institutional system which has raised rootless, deracinated, self-loathing, apologetic, self-hating Indians who take half an opportunity to spew venom about rest of us. This is tragic, but this is true. We'll have to correct it.
Sanjay Jha, it's hypocritical, selective, and born out of a deracinated mindset. Simple question to you. Do you agree with Sushil Pandit? And why don't you agree when he has brought out so many facts to challenge your point of view? And why is it that you're glossing over the hate, the furies of hate that were unleashed in the past under your rule, sir, the Congress rule?
Let me quickly put my response in perspective. I totally disagree with his highly pessimistic, cynical, and in my opinion, parochial response. India, in my opinion, I'm more proud of India than he is. I believe India is not just an economy, it is also a society. It has institutions. They may be under threat today, but I can tell you this, having lived here, I have refused many jobs abroad, by the way, Rahul, and I have stayed here in my country because I believe for all its failures and fault lines, they exist even today. Perhaps they have got aggravated after 2014, and I contest it on your show, but I'm a lot more sanguine about my country. I would disagree with him. You know why? Mr. Pandit, look at the politics of the neighboring countries of our region. Look at what happened to Pakistan and Sri Lanka, to Maldives, to Bangladesh, and look at India. So let me tell you this, Mr. Pandit, let me finish. I'm responding to you. The reason why I'm proud is because this country is not and should not snigger at secularism, Mr. Pandit. I'm proud of a secular India. I'm proud of India's constitution. I'm proud of our democratic liberalism. I'm proud of our diversity. I'm proud of the fact that we have pluralism. I'm proud of the fact that this country is aspirational. I'm proud of the fact that this country has hope. And it doesn't matter which political dispensation, you cannot stop this country, which is why I believe that Mr. Modi's government, if it plays bigotry and it tries to divide society, it will fail. It will fail sooner than later.
So you should go and give this thoughts to Rahul Gandhi, who uses every platform available to dish India only because he has a problem with one person in power here. Now, Tehseen, are you the official spokesperson or is he the official spokesperson? Or both of you together are official, unofficial spokesperson? Can I complete a discussion allows somebody to make a point and then respond?
But when you make pot shots at Rahul Gandhi, what did Mr. Rahul Gandhi spokesperson?
One at a time.
No, I am the spokesperson. Now, since he has confessed he's Rahul Gandhi spokesperson, that's your point. Now, can I please make my point?
Of India.
Can you please have a dignified debate? You never. Let's have some dignity on the debate.
Rahul,
since you have said that because I spoke about Rahul Gandhi, and you are so offended with Leena, etc., and you took a stand on Leena. Take a stand on Rahul Gandhi, who says those who go to mandirs molest women. Take a stand on Rahul Gandhi's government, who said that there is no existence of Shri Ram. Take a stand against Rahul Gandhi, who said Hindutva is like ISIS and Boko Haram. Salman Khurshid and others said that. He went to Rajasthan, said Hindutva teaches how to kill Muslims and Sikhs, whereas Hindutva is the way of life as per Supreme Court. Take a stand on this.
I am very clear on this, that Rahul Gandhi did not say that those who go to mandir molest women. You are once again lying and manufacturing. No, he did not say that. He did not say that. What Rahul Gandhi said is this is a great country, and in this country there are different ways of life. And we cannot have the violent way of life. That's what Rahul Gandhi said. And Narendra Modi abroad said people were not proud of being living in a parallel.
Well, 1 second. Yes, Mr. Pandit, in the final minutes of this one, yes, Mr. Pandit.
You know, the untenability of the argument.
No, I can't hear what you're saying. I can't hear anybody.
the untenability of Mr. Jha's argument is borne out by the fact that you have to compare India with Afghanistan and Pakistan to show where we stand today after 50, 60 years. Is that the reference point for India? Civilizational India, democratic India, progressive India? You want to show us in contrast with Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan?
Don't be clever by half. You're being disingenuous. You're being specious. And you're lying. You're lying. I give an example. I give an example of a country that truly remained committed to its constitution and grew economically into a world power and a member of the G7 and G20, and today is respected worldwide for our values, for our civilizational strength.
No,
don't
you said
it,
go compare us to Pakistan.
Well, a more apt example would be perhaps the United States that is today disempowered 50% of its population from having a say over its own body and perhaps mind. Think about that, viewers. Look, the fact is, for far too long, viewers, for far too long, certain people in this country have been very selective. They've been selective in their outrage, they've been selective in their criticism, they've been selective in their praise, and that can't continue. You people out there are smart. You know. And our job is to bring it out, viewers. Enough of going out there and peddling falsehoods against this country, constantly undermining what we stand for, painting anyone who doesn't agree with you as some Hindutva troll. Stop abusing one side just because they're tolerant enough, intelligent enough not to hit the streets and try and attempt physical violence on you. On that point, I want to conclude by asking you, Shahzad Poonawalla, today we have had some sort of a sant, Guruji, a Mahant or what have you, in Ayodhya. He's come out and he's threatened Leena. And he says that, would you also now ridicule our religion and culture? Do you also want your head to be separated from your body? Is this what you want? Do you think this is in the right spirit, sir? Simple question. And if it isn't, do you think this Mahant Raju Das of Hanuman Gadi temple should be arrested?
I think anybody who makes a statement that is not in consonance with the constitution or with the penal code needs to be acted upon in the manner that any other person is acted upon. But having said that, today the fundamental question was that those who are demanding arrest of A, B, C, are they doing the same for Mahua Mitra? Are they even trying to sack her from the party?
Take action according to the law against all hate monuments. Don't be selective.
Absolutely not.
Well, very quickly, Ms. Dev, you're on test. The TMC is on test.
I just want to say that if Shehzad believes everything that's unconstitutional against the IPC should be prosecuted, then one person who needs to be shoved behind the bars is your MP Dilip Ghosh.
Okay.
Because he is a loose cannon.
Once again, viewers, what about it? We can all make a start somewhere. The fact is, one party hasn't done what they're expecting the other party to do. We have an expectation problem here. Working cross purposes, there is duality of stands, and that is unfortunate. Hypocrisy masquerading today, viewers, as some form of morality. Not acceptable, not acceptable. We need to move on because these are very interesting times for British politics too. Current churn within the Conservative Party establishment has left Prime Minister Boris Johnson with no option but to resign. 60 of his government colleagues have deserted him, citing multiple blunders, including inaction and complaints of sexual harassment, policy differences and transgressions in matters of propriety. And resign he did, accepting his fate and promising his support to whoever replaces him now. The question is, who's going to replace him? There is a huge amount of speculation, viewers, that there are, and this could be unprecedented, among the front runners, some that have South Asian origins. Rishi Sunak, the man on your screens, is one of those front runners. What are his prospects and chances? There are others from the subcontinent. Sajid Javid, who's of Pakistani origin. And yet, there are more. Preeti Patel, who was very recently the Home Minister, the Home Secretary. Let's analyze a little bit about whether these people actually have a shot at power. And if so, what is prompting Britain to turn towards citizens who are a minority to lead their country? Obviously, viewers, they would say that once you become a British citizen, you're colorless, you're raceless, you're British first, and that's all that matters. In India, of course, viewers, there's been a huge debate about Sonia Gandhi's origins, and I'm just trying to draw a parallel here. So let me just go straight across to our guest, Dr. Matt Cole, historian who joins us. Dr. Cole, thank you very much. What are the prospects of someone of Indian ethnic origins becoming the Prime Minister? This is obviously an issue which is exercising a lot of Indians here in our country.
The prospects are better than they've ever been, simply because of the number of candidates from ethnic minority backgrounds in Britain, but also because of the way in which the culture of politics has changed in Britain. You have to remember that until 1987, every member of parliament, with some rare historical exceptions, had been white. And the growth in the number of ethnic minority members of parliament has followed a generation behind the growth in the population of those families and individuals who've come from South Asia to build a life in Britain, and who have, over the intervening period, integrated into and expressed their voices through the British political system, so that we now have over 50 out of 650 members of parliament who are from ethnic minorities, and in the cabinet and the shadow cabinet, the leadership of the Labour Party, a significant number of representatives of those minority groups, including, of course, Rishi Sunak, a number of other figures representing those with Indian heritage and family connections.
Well, he's amongst the four which are odds-on favourite to become the next Premier. Your assessment on his chances, realistic?
Well, his chances until very recently, until the so-called Partygate scandal, would have been very good. He's regarded by the population as a serious, informed, expert manager of the economy. He was very much in the public's appreciation for his management of the economy during the pandemic, when he made sure that furlough payments for people who weren't able to work, were made quickly available and were continued throughout the pandemic. However, two things have happened since the end of the pandemic and the lockdowns in Britain. One of them is that as Chancellor, he has obviously had to deal with the constraints on the economy and the need to claw back public spending and the need to have fiscal rigour and to contemplate higher taxes. National insurance, for example, has gone up, which has made him unpopular, unsurprisingly. He, secondly, was peripherally associated with the so-called Partygate scandal, the social events that went on in Downing Street during the lockdown period, and where members of the Prime Minister's staff and the Prime Minister himself on one occasion were given a number of fixed penalty notices by the police for having broken the regulations that they themselves had set. Now, Rishi Sunak was only at one of those events, a brief birthday party for the Prime Minister. He wasn't held to have been particularly responsible for any extravagant behaviour. Right. However, he's affected by his association with Boris Johnson, who, of course, has now just resigned, but with an echo, a shadow of the same reputation. And so he will have to show that he's got an economic plan, first of all, which he made it very clear he had in his resignation letter, but also he's going to have to convince the British public that his association with Boris Johnson was only minimal.
Interesting times. We've had a political coup of sorts, interesting times, some unprecedented times, because many people now wonder if Boris Johnson is entitled to stay on as caretaker. Many people say that he should immediately evacuate office because he's lost the confidence not just of his party, but also lied to the public. Well, viewers, we'll keep tracking Rishi Sunak and others. It could be monumental, and it could be very emblematic of the way British society is evolving now in the 21st century. We leave it at that. Thank you very much.
You know, we have a difficult relationship with China. We're perfectly capable of managing it. It's, if I get global understanding and support, obviously it is of help to me. But this idea that I do a transaction, that I come in one conflict because it will help me in conflict too, that's not how the world works. So a lot of our problems in China have nothing to do with Ukraine, have nothing to do with Russia. They predate it.
The Supreme Court today has validated the findings of the special investigation team that looked into the Gujarat riots of 2002. You represented the SIT in the Supreme Court, which has today given very, very scathing criticism of those who tried to cast aspersions on the SIT's integrity. I want to ask you, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, was this another attempt to somehow cloud the entire investigation process?
There is no doubt, Navika, that this was a motivated attempt to somehow, as the judgment uses the phrase, keep the pot boiling.
Viewers.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited his constituency Varanasi. In a mega Vikas push, PM Modi inaugurated over 30 projects. Moreover, Prime Minister also interacted with children during his visit. Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann tied the knot with Dr. Gurpreet Kaur in Chandigarh. Many top AAP netas attended the low-key wedding, including Arvind Kejriwal and Raghav Chaddha. Alt News co-founder Zubair has been sent to 6-day police custody. The editor landed in trouble over a tweet which allegedly hurt religious sentiments. Meanwhile, Supreme Court will hear Zubair's plea challenging the Allahabad High Court's refusal to quash a FIR against him in Uttar Pradesh on Friday. Amid speculations that Congress might leave the Mahavikas Aghadi, Maharashtra Congress chief Nana Patole met party supremo Sonia Gandhi in Delhi. However, details of the meet remain unknown. In the fight to save Mumbai's green lungs, Aare Forest, Congress launched a massive protest against Shinde Sarkar. The newly formed Maharashtra government has approved decision to relocate Metro car shed to Aare Colony. In some relief for Satinder Jain, Delhi High Court dismissed plea seeking his suspension from Delhi Health Minister post. The plea filed in the court stated that Jain, who is under custody, is still enjoying the perks and privileges of a cabinet minister despite having been allegedly indicted under serious charges which may entail severe punishment.
And in fact, it was a phrase used by me, and the judgment acknowledges that See, the idea was that to somehow make a attack on high functionaries in various services like the police, like fire services, and also attack the high functionaries of the government, the then Chief Minister, the then Home Minister of the state, who are currently the Prime Minister and the Home Minister today. The court has held that this was not only motivated, but this was an abuse of the legal process, because I had argued that this is not really Zakia Jafri who is protesting and keeping this kind of thing boiling, but it was some motivated forces behind her who were using her name, that she was merely a name lender. There were other forces which were behind it to somehow get at the then Chief Minister and other functionaries for their own political or private gains. And the court has validated our stand. And in fact, the SIT has been applauded by the court. It has come out with flying colors for what it did under quote-unquote trying circumstances. And every argument made by me for the SIT has found favor with the court in a thumping judgment of over 450 pages.
जिम्मेदार यकीनन औरंगजेब है।
The fire over smoking Kaali continues to rage. Now the director who stoked the controversy has made her intent clear that she will go after Hindustan, after the Hindu goddess. Taking the fight a step further, today she came out and said the whole nation has now deteriorated from the largest democracy to the largest hate machine. A line that many in the opposition have told in the past. But however, she didn't stop at that. She tweeted another debatable picture. She took to her Twitter handle and dropped a picture which depicted a man and a woman dressed as Lord Shiva and Parvati smoking. The director, who has been different till now, facing FIRs in different parts of the country. There's an FIR against her in Madhya Pradesh, Assam, Delhi and Uttar Pradesh. Let's remind you how she has gone on the offensive and defending her provocation, first citing free speech and then by bashing India. Another person in the line of fire for her remarks on Kaali is TMC MP Mahua Mitra. Now, she's been abandoned by her own party after she said that according to her, Kaali is a meat-eating, alcohol-accepting goddess. In a poetic comeback and veiled comment at her party, she says, and I quote, "Don't tell her to be careful, stand with her instead, shine a light and speak some truth into that pit of dread." While Mamata Banerjee says that some have mastered the art of arguing without knowledge, the party has made it stand clear that it is thinking of taking action against her. Listen in.
আমার অনেক সময় মনে হয় আমরা যখন ছোট ছিলাম আমরা কত ছোট ছোট কবিতা পড়তাম সেগুলো নিয়ে কখনো কিন্তু কোশ্চেন ওঠেনি। এক একটা জায়গার এক এক রকম স্বরূপ আছে, কিন্তু কেউ কেউ আছে পুরোটা না দেখেই হঠাৎ চিৎকার করতে শুরু করলো, একেবারে হরে করে কাম্বার মতো। আমি এ কথা বললে আবার বলবে দেখেছেন হরে করে কম্বা, এটা কিছু হয় হয় হয়।
As far as Mahua's statement is concerned, the party is considering it and it will announce appropriate steps and be proper.
The BJP, however, has attacked the filmmaker and also the lobby that is fueling the fire.
स्थिति लीना जी की हो गई है, वो ही हेट फैला रही है और वो ही पूछ रही है। मेरा ये कहना है कि ये फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन सिर्फ हिंदुओं के लिए है ना, किसी दूसरे धर्म पे नहीं है फ्रीडम। इनको किसी दूसरे धर्म पे बोलती नहीं है, ये कायरता है, ये दोगलापन है। किसी दूसरे धर्म पर नहीं बोलती। सॉफ्ट टारगेट सिर्फ हिंदू है ना, हिंदुओं पे ही बोलने को फ्रीडम है ना इनका, और किसी पे तो है ही नहीं, और किसी धर्म पे बोल ही नहीं सकती। नहीं, धड़ से सर जुदा वाली बातें आ जाएंगी फिर।
There are some people in India who believe simply by abusing others' faith, they get famous overnight, using which they believe they can sell their movies.
ये सरासर हिंदू देवताओं का अपमान है। केवल इस डॉक्यूमेंट्री फिल्म की पब्लिसिटी के लिए ये चीप हरकत है। फिल्म डायरेक्टर लीना को तत्काल जनता से माफी मांगनी चाहिए।
But the ecosystem is still rallying behind those who insulted the goddess. Listen in.
I see that if at all anyone is insulting goddess Kaali, he is a BJP, and hurting the sentiments of Hindus by circulating it all over the world. Till it was in Canada, nobody noticed it. But afterwards that they have been circulating, in a true sense, it's a BJP who insult goddesses, who hurt the sentiments, Hindu sentiments. But what happened is that people thinking is blurred by media, by propaganda machinery of BJP. I was born and brought up in a village in Allahabad. I've seen that somewhere they sacrifice chicken, somewhere they sacrifice pig, and sometimes they offer even liquor also to the deities. So at different places, mode of worship varies from one place to other.
And this brings me to the legitimate question this evening. Does the lobby back Bharat bashing?
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
Go across to our guest now. Sanju Verma of the BJP is with us. She's national spokesperson. With us also is Dr. Anand Raghunathan, author. Karan Verma, author, is with us. Also with us is Lokesh Jindal of the Congress Party. Also with us is Danish Qureshi, a political analyst. But I first and foremost want to go across to Dr. Shashi Panja, Minister in charge of the Department of Women and Child Development and Social Welfare, as well as the national spokesperson of the TMC. Dr. Shashi Panja, let me begin by asking you this entire aspect of the TMC considering what action needs to be taken on Mahua Moitra. If Mahua Moitra and the same yardstick that your party had as far as Nupur Sharma is concerned, the same yardstick of insulting God and goddesses is to be applied, then Mahua Moitra should have been acted upon much earlier. Instead, all we see are veiled references in Mamata Banerjee's speech and the fact that the party is considering what action to take still. We saw Mr. Saugat Roy say that. What really is the party going to do? Dr. Shashi Panja.
First and foremost, All India Trinamool Congress, with prompt alacrity, the moment the news came in fact, we were also in a press conference day before, in the afternoon. Just at that time, we were in another press conference. And there were reporters from national TV2 who put up these questions to us. And we immediately attempt the poster, the representation, and also we mentioned about MP Mahua Moitra that her statements is not the statement of the party. Now that was done very promptly. There was no delay. And just to go a step further, if All India Trinamool Congress puts a statement on be it social media or Twitter, it obviously is the statement of the chairperson of the AITC, and that is Mamata Banerjee. So the question of silence and everything doesn't come in. It is her statement which comes to the party.
My question is slightly different, madam. If you will allow me to just clarify, the question that I'm asking you is not about distancing from the comment of Mahua Moitra. What the BJP will say is that they acted on Nupur Sharma. Now, you can always say that they didn't act the same day, they acted maybe too late, and perhaps allowed her to go on making statements. The point is that at the end of the day, they did suspend her for 6 years or whatever it may be. So similarly, if the TMC takes the comments of Mahua Moitra seriously, what action will the TMC take? I'm not saying what action you should take, but at least some kind of action on Mahua Moitra.
Now, the action now taken is what I have already mentioned. And I saw you played out what MP Shobhata Rai also mentioned, so there's no point reiterating. What we wish to say is, if she has said this on her personal capacity, and we are with the Constitution, and Trinamool Congress respects all religions, and at the same time, the Constitution gives you the space and the freedom to follow your religion in your own way. So we should not, at the same time, hurt any sentiments, and that being done, we will, and that's why we have condemned it.
All right,
but since you mentioned a political party, BJP, I just want to add, what is this benchmark that you're setting? What is this yardstick that you're setting? BJP says that's why we will say it's not that. It is independent of what BJP said. Even before BJP said, we said what we had to. But to understand that the BJP is the only custodian of the Hindu religion, and that we are also trying to...
Nobody's saying anything about custodian of religion.
It
is about political parties taking action against those who cross a certain line, ma'am. I'm just saying that there is one example of what the BJP
cutting across all religion. No, we do not believe in the unitary idea, which they are saying. The unitary idea, you should see the way they speak. So, we should maintain that composure.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody is wavering out, we have to maintain the composure.
Well, maintaining the composure is one thing, ma'am. Giving an exemplary action so that others don't make the same mistake is another aspect. But let me bring in the BJP. Ma'am, 1 second, please. You have intervened several times. Now, let me bring in others also. They're waiting very patiently. Sanju Verma, the BJP is not going to be the party that sets the yardstick for us, says the TMC. Your response to that?
Madhav, the Trinamool Congress trying to give certificates on Sanatan Dharma and Hinduism to the BJP is like the pot calling the kettle black. Point number one. Point number two, sitting here and waxing eloquent and saying, with a lot of alacrity, we took action against Mahua Moitra. There is a saying, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And what action did the Trinamool Congress take against Mahua Moitra? Nothing, just a mere condemnation on Twitter. When it came to Nupur Sharma, you were baying for her blood. You even were clapping from the sidelines when there were calls for her beheading. You wanted her arrested without even a fair trial. But when it comes to Mahua Moitra, you very conveniently say this is not the Trinamool stand. It is her personal comment. Madhav, when you're a member of parliament like Mahua Moitra, you cannot make an insidious statement like she did, which was absolutely Hindu-phobic, calling Ma Kaali alcoholic, and then saying that, oh, I have the right to imagine how I worship my goddess. Yes, you have the right to pray, you have the right to worship, you have the right to imagine. But your freedom stops where my freedom begins. Or let me put it the other way. My freedom stops where your freedom begins. Even the Constitution of India says freedom of speech and expression is not absolute, but subject to public order, morality and health.
Right.
Mahua Moitra needs to take cognizance of. I will just finish in 20 seconds. You gave the TMC a long, lengthy intervention. I want to just say one thing. How is it that Mahua Moitra had the audacity to make these Hindu-phobic comments against Ma Kaali and not even show an iota of regret. It is because over the last 10 or 15 odd years, Mamata Banerjee has rationalized Hinduphobia. There's a village called Nalhati in Birbhum district where there are 300 Hindu families who for the last decade under Mamata Banerjee have not been given permission to celebrate Durga Puja. This is the same Mamata Banerjee who appointed Firhad Hakim, a Mussalman, to the board of Tarakeshwar, and he resigned only under mass public protest.
Okay.
This is the same Mamata Banerjee who gave 30,000 rupees as stipend to 2,500 Maulanas in Kolkata. The Calcutta High Court had to step in, and it is only then that she went back on her decision.
Okay, respond to that.
Mamata Banerjee, 10 seconds. This is the same Mamata Banerjee who last year, do you know, Madhav, she gave a ticket of Asansol South constituency to Sayoni Ghosh, who on the day of Mahashivratri tweeted a condom on a shivling and made mockery
All right. Let me put those. You've given a number of examples. Dr. Shashi Panja, respond to the BJP spokesperson. Her, in sum and substance of her argument is that Mamata Banerjee, the TMC, she alleges, has allowed such kind of behavior in the past, has even encouraged such kind of Hindu-phobic behavior. That's her allegation, and that's why you have a situation today where Mahua Moitra is making these statements that are quite clearly embarrassing the party.
Madhav, this is why I had just mentioned that those who are thinking that they are custodians of Hinduism, this is why. Look at the way she's totally rabid. Be careful. It's total blasphemy. On top of that, on national television, you are saying, please tell her not to interject. Please tell Madhav that tell her not to interject.
One at a time.
You cannot allow this?
No, I'm not allowing. We are not allowing any cross debate. I'm going to allow you time to respond to that, Sanju Verma. Let her make a point.
Please kindly lower the volume. I did not. When one after the other, she went on mentioning lies. She is talking about Durga Puja. What is she saying? Does she even know how Durga Puja and Kaali Puja is celebrated in Bengal? They have no idea. No, stop it. You have said enough lies. Now about Sayoni Ghosh. No, I don't need to prove to you. You have to be in Bengal. I understand your frustration. You couldn't win Bengal. That's another issue. You see, this is the problem, Mother. For them, religion is again politics. For us, religion is not politics. Mother, if you continue to hear this, if you continue to allow this, it becomes very
difficult. Let me intervene. Now, Sanju Verma, let me come in now. Let's not have this kind of a shouting match. Let's not have this kind of shouting match. Please calm down. Sanju Verma as well as Dr. Shashi Panja. One second. Sanju Verma, I'm going to come back to you for your response. But meanwhile, I'm going to allow Dr. Shashi Panja to make a point.
She may become another Nupur. She may become another Nupur. Be very careful. She is saying false. She is talking about.
From either side, please. I'm requesting both of you. Let's just calm down. This is a very, very important issue. All right, I'm going to go across. All right, I have to lower both your faders now. I have to go across to other guests. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, the question that I want to ask is this. You know, at the end of the day, we have a situation here. We're coming to the moot point that we're debating today. You have a person who has come out and raised a question. As far as India is concerned, it's one thing to attack a political party or an ideology or a belief or whatever one may have. But the point is, at the end of the day, look at the statement that she has made. She says it feels like the whole nation that has now deteriorated from the largest democracy to the largest hate machine wants to censor me. I do not feel safe anywhere at the moment. What do we make of this, Dr. Ranganathan?
Good evening, Madhav, and good evening to all my team. I've been waiting and listening very patient them for about 15 minutes. So can I please request the courtesy of a couple of minutes of uninterrupted time? Madhav, it's quite amusing to see the developments, especially on this Kaali issue. There is, on the part of a filmmaker, I think her name is Miss Leena, there is a clear intent to provoke. I don't know whether you're, up to what her statement today has been. And I'm quoting her. She is now saying that Kaali is not a Hindu goddess. So obviously there is a clear intent to provoke. Now with the leftists, you're never sure whether they're deliberately doing this or by the design of their cerebrum, they are like this. But nonetheless, this is a time-tested leftist and Islamist strategy to take the focus away from the real issue, Islamic terrorism and jihadi fundamentalism. The idea is to draw an equivalence and then say, look, people who criticize Hindu gods and goddesses are also getting threats. I am actually surprised that it has taken this long for them to drum this up. Normally, they do it in a matter of hours. Remember what happened barely hours after those Bangalore blasphemy riots 2 years ago, where the Dalit boy was accused of blasphemy and Islamists ran riot, set shops on fire and pelted stones and injured scores of policemen, 60 of them. Remember how the narrative was shifted within hours to Muslim making a human chain around the Hindu temple to protect it from being attacked? And then the whole of next day, that particular news was amplified and the focus on Islamic fundamentalism and punishment for blasphemy in Islam was diluted. Look, it goes without saying that any kind of threat against any kind of quote-unquote blasphemy is condemnable as far as I'm concerned. But that's the thing. These chauthi fails actually are for handing out punishment for blasphemy. But only if blasphemy is carried out against Islam, not against Hinduism. Remember how every last one of them, including Ms. Mahua Moitra, wanted Nupur arrested immediately. And that too for merely quoting Islamic scriptures. Selectivity and hypocrisy runs in their blood. When it comes to Islam, remember how PM Manmohan Singh, on the floor of our parliament, demanded an apology from Denmark for the Prophet cartoons. Remember how Sonia Gandhi publicly apologized to Shahi Imam of Jama Masjid? But when it comes to Hinduism, it's a free-for-all. All those Gau Mutra jibes, terming Hindu god Parashuram a terrorist, a rapist, celebrating Tipu Jayanti, praying at the tomb of Aurangzeb, now even saying, as I said, that goddess Kaali is not a Hindu goddess, you name it. And if the idea is to demean Hindus and Hinduism, they have done it. From Jinnah, who represented Rajpal's assassin, Ilmuddin, to Iqbal, just 30 seconds, to Iqbal, who carried his coffin, to BSP candidate Qureshi, who offered 51 crores bounty for killing Charlie Hebdo journalist, to Asaduddin Owaisi, who exhorted the annihilation of Kamlesh Tiwari. The thing with Islamists is they are unapologetic about their Sarfar-Sajuda agenda. The problem, Madhav, just 10 seconds, is with moderates who are embarrassed by this and therefore want to minimize the damage and draw out equivalences that will cushion Islamist thought and extremism. Till today, whenever you brought up Rushdie, they brought up M.F. Hussain. Although there was no fatwa against Hussain and Hindus fought against him legally. Now, when you bring up Nupur, they will just you wait. They will always bring up Leena and her film Kaali. And
Right.
just 10 seconds, Madhav, can I please ask Dr. Panja?
That's a lot of extra time, sir. Yeah.
Just 10 seconds because I really
quickly
respect
wrap
what
up
she
your
does, her
comments.
profession. Can I please ask her a very pertinent question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Dr. Panja, just a very simple question. You know I respect you and your profession, what you've done. You're a COVID warrior. But here, can I please express my disappointment? Because what you've done is at the altar of political expediency, you're throwing one of your own. When you say that you condemn Mahua Moitra, this is what Mahua Moitra said. She said, Kaali, goddess Kaali is meat-accepting, alcohol-accepting goddess. Please tell me, is she factually wrong? Yes or no?
You see, Goddess Kaali is, Dr. Ranganathan in a way is correct that Goddess Kaali all over the country is worshipped in various ways. And I think that whoever worships Goddess Kaali is worshipping with its own personal beliefs. So there is no question of trying to politicize this. Yes, as you mentioned, and as has been shown even in the public domain, there is various forms and there are various ways that, the offerings that they give to Goddess Kaali may vary from maybe state to state or from from people to people. So, but we think that that's personal.
No, but
so,
Dr. Panja...
what we are saying is that we maintain a secular thought and we respect all religions. We are not getting at the back of any religion.
No, but ma'am, if you can demand a legal action against Nupur Sharma and not taking this kind of action or demand, even as far as Mahua Mitra's comments are concerned, then that is the hypocrisy that Dr. Anand Raghunathan is talking about.
5 seconds. Dr. Panja, 5 seconds. A counter 5 seconds. I appreciate what you're saying. But then, by that same logic, if tomorrow somebody says that, look, I believe Goddess Kaali is flower accepting, would you also condemn that?
Well, why should we? I'm not condemning. Why should we do it? I'm saying that the moment the moment you hurt somebody, If somebody is hurt, we should not do that. That's what it can be anything. We cannot hurt anybody's sentiments or personal beliefs.
All right. We're 20 minutes into the debate. I just want to intervene and bring in some of the panelists who've been waiting. Now, Lokesh Jindal is with us. Lokesh Jindal, do you agree with the statement of Leena Manimekle, where she says that the largest democracy has become the largest hate machine? She doesn't feel safe anymore. Is this now the largest hate machine? And does she have any right to go around abusing the nation literally with these comments?
Well, good evening, Madhav. The statement made by, in fact, what Leena has done is not correct. Hurting Hindu sentiments is not acceptable. And the statement that she made, it does have a certain form of, you can say, there was certain form of legitimacy in it. Today, if you look at India, there is no free speech. If you see, almost all media houses, they are sold out.
So
they are all adhering to a propaganda.
Sir, let me come in. The largest democracy has become the largest hate machine. You're actually backing up that comment on national television.
Let me come. When I'm talking about on national television, various media houses, they are already restricting themselves to a propaganda. There are only conjectures that are seen. There is no relation between what is truth, what is false.
Democracy is dead in India,
people who are coming on the national televisions, they are only sticking to a propaganda, spreading lies, spreading hatred, and spreading all
What are you talking, Mr. Jindal? Are you coming here to spread a propaganda? Are we not having a debate where both sides are equally represented? There are three people who are pro-government or share views similar to the government. There are three people from the opposition parties or share views similar to opposition parties. And you're saying democracy is dead in this country? What are you talking?
And they are speaking without any form of basis to it. It is almost like spreading
Madhav, can I come in?
You know, this is absolutely bizarre. Dr. Jindal, I mean, this is absolutely shocking. As a person who subscribes to a mainstream political party, you know, these comments of yours are absolutely shocking. I want to allow Karan Verma to come in. Karan Verma. Dr. Lokesh Jindal says that democracy is dead. He just stopped short of saying that because he says that everything is a one-sided narrative now in this country. Karan Verma.
Well, Madhav, Leena knows zilch about this great country. As much as she knows about goddess Kaali, she knows zilch. And today she's cast aspersions on our country, and Lokesh also pretty much did that. Let me just quote you 3 instances which shows the magnanimity of our great country. Mark Tully, a BBC journalist, he spent 26 years in India, and he's written an article on the 22nd September 2019, just recently, in the Equator magazine. And he said, I stay in the Nizamuddin area near the Dargah. And right in front of the Dargah is the Tablighi Jamaat office. And I've stayed here for 26 years. There is not a single Islamic country in which it is possible. India, and he says this, and I'm quoting it directly, is heaven for Muslims. It is even better than Islamic countries for Muslims. Can you imagine that? This is coming from a BBC journalist. You look at the Polish people. Maharaja Jam Sahab is honored in Poland, in Warsaw, because he gave refuge to thousands of Polish kids after World War II. The Jews in Israel, they revere India. They say it is the only country which gave us refuge when we were persecuted everywhere. Madhav, we have a large history, a glorious past, present and future of giving refuge to the persecuted. Yes, we allow creative freedom. Yes, the majority here is assimilative. It is all accepting. But there is a line you don't cross. Even fundamental rights come with reasonable restrictions. If Leena doesn't understand that, then good luck to her. She will understand it this way, that this is a country which accepts you, loves you, but will call out your hypocrisy on your face, and that's exactly what you're doing it. If you are not able to deal with it, you have no business calling it a hate machine. Say it that you can't tolerate what you met out to others. If you have creative freedom, even we have the freedom of saying you are a hypocrite on your face. If you can't tolerate it, it's you who's intolerant. It's you who's a hate spewing machine, not us, not this great country.
After not just insulting gods and goddesses, now she is going ahead to insult the country, the democratic system itself, and that's what's absolutely shocking. She perhaps did not gauge the kind of backlash that her comments would have, but that does not give her the right to insult this country or its democracy, sir.
Look, Madhav, when I'm talking about the comments that made by Leena, it is not at all correct. But if you look at Tantricism as a cult in Hindu religion, it talks about 5M, where it mentions, and goddess Kaali is very much associated with the cult of Tantricism. If any one of the panelists knows over here, And the 5M includes Mas, Madira, Matsya, Maithun, which were some of the basic components of tantric practices.
So you're saying that her comment is not at all offensive? The comment should not. The comment is fine. It is not offensive according to you.
The kind of depiction that she made.
You look at the film.
Okay, I want. Yeah. I'm going to come to 1 second. Many hands going up. Please, many hands going up. I want Anand to quickly respond to this, and then I come back to others. Please, one at a time. I request your indulgence. Please, there are too many hands going up. I cannot allow everyone to speak. 6 people cannot speak at the same time. Please bear with me. Anand, quick response.
No, absolutely. To my good friend Mr. Lokesh Jindal, I have only one thing to say. Yes. He is waxing eloquent about tantric, culture of Hinduism and how goddess Kaali and what has been attributed to her is absolutely correct. Why was he asking for Nupu's arrest when all she did was quote Islamic scripture? तब आपका data और सारा ये कहाँ चला जाता है यार? तब क्यों डर जाते हो भाई?
Is Nupur a Muslim?
Why are you scared? What scares you?
Is she talking about
what scares you? Tell me. You could not even ask, you could not even challenge the blasphemers, you could not even challenge the accusers who were accusing
all right. No, I don't want to make this, about who was bad, who was worse. Sanju Verma, ultimately the question is this, that if there are 2 comments that are condemnable and action has been taken by at least one political party, why is the yardstick and why does the goalpost change? That is the basic question that has to be asked. What's good for one has to be good for the other.
Madhav, I just want to say a couple of things. Point number 1, for many years before 2014, Hinduphobia was rationalized and given legitimacy by successive Congress governments. And that is the reason you have somebody like a Shashi Tharoor who openly endorses Mahua Moitra's bigotry and then has the audacity to brazenly say, this is my personal comment. Excuse me, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, you are a member of parliament. What you say cannot be in your personal capacity, and how convenient of you to say that. Do you remember, Madhav, in 2016, there used to be an event in JNU called Mahishasur Martyrdom Day. And I hate to say this, let me be forgiven by Ma Kaali, but I have to make this point. What was the pamphlet in JNU that was circulated? It said that goddess Durga is a fair-skinned racist who actually honeymooned with Mahishasur for 9 days, lured him, and then ultimately on the 10th day killed him. It was BJP which took up cudgels and said that we cannot allow such an event to be hosted in one of the premier universities. Smriti Irani even made a comment to that effect on the floor of the parliament. But what happened? Rahul Gandhi, etc., they were clapping from the sidelines and cheering something called a Mahishasur Martyrdom Day. You have people like Amazon. They came out with doormats which had the inscription of Om and Ganesha. There was a hue and cry on social media led by BJP social media warriors, and Amazon withdrew those mats.
Right.
The point I'm trying to make is that the other party and the other side has given legitimacy to...
You don't allow us to interject. When we were speaking, she was interjecting.
Madam, I stopped every interjection. And there are others who have not yet spoken. Please.
You will get your time.
No. She was interjecting. She was interjecting.
It is very difficult. Please bear with me, all of you ladies and gentlemen. It is very difficult. If everyone starts interjecting each other, this debate becomes difficult to manage. Please. I'm going to come to you, madam. Please. Dr. Panja, please bear with me. There is a panelist who has not yet spoken. Please bear with me, madam. You have spoken extensively in the beginning of this debate. We have enough time. I will give you a chance. Please believe me, I will give you a chance, ma'am. Please let her make her point. I have to go to Danish Qureshi and then I'll come to you, Dr. Panja. Dr. Panja, I will come to you. Please bear with me. Please, I request you. Please. Sanju Verma, quickly make your point.
Yes.
20 seconds.
BJP should be the last one to lecture. BJP should be the last one to lecture.
Dr. Panja, I'm requesting you, just as I requested Sanju Verma, please don't do this. All right, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to have a shouting match on national television, and I cannot allow this, and therefore I have to lower both your faders for the second time in this show this evening. I'm going to go across to Danish Qureshi and ask him one simple question. Danish Qureshi, when she makes a comment of the largest democracy becoming the largest hate machine, do you think they are comments that can be endorsed?
Madhav, my reply is that no citizen has a right to insult any god or goddess in any manner. on who he or she should be deal with the legal consequences. Second thing is that BJP and his affiliated organizations such as Sangh Parivar has no right to talk, no morality right to talk on this blasphemy, because they are in the rule and the topmost position who is holding. They were in the movement of demolishing the Babri Masjid. Each and everybody knew that very well. Second thing is that till today nobody is. Mr. Verma, please आप चुप हो जाइए, आप चुप हो जाइए. आप बोल रही थी, मैं खामोश था, आप सुनिए. Second thing, nobody is convicted in the demolition of Babri Masjid till today. That means as per the law, Babri Masjid has been not demolished, and now they are talking about Leena and Mahua Moitra. Yes, they are. They should be deal with the legal consequences. No doubt about that. But BJP has no right to talk on that because they're taking action after the reaction of globally, after getting globally reaction. Second thing, what the police of
Danish Qureshi,
when she will get arrested.
Danish Qureshi, simple question to you. If there has been a demand for legal action, and perhaps rightly so, on the comments of Nupur Sharma, why should there not be a similar action on Mahua Moitra? Because both, in my view, have perhaps insulted those who are believers, who have faith in a religion.
Each and every citizen is equal before... Madhav, each and every citizen is equal before the law. Nobody has a superiority in that. And why should not actions are being taken? Each and every citizen should be get legal charge, whoever has done crime, in the same manner.
But you don't have the decency to even condemn a
Okay, once again, yeah, but why not take action? Why not demand action on Mahua Moitra?
You are in the power, you are in the government. Who is asking to be, who is asking the head of Nupur Sharma? Why?
Supreme Court.
Tell me, more than 1 month is over. Where is Nupur Sharma?
Even the highest court is held accountable.
Sanju Verma, we want to know that where is Nupur Sharma? Either you
the BJP should not be asking. Ask
you
yourself.
demand action against Leena.
All right, let me come in now. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, when you shout over each other, the viewer hears absolutely nothing. So as much as you may be exercising yourselves and your lungs, the point is you're not getting your points out together. Let me come across to you one by one. We have enough time. If you're going to continue shouting, we will not have enough time to articulate ourselves. First and foremost, I go across to Dr. Shashi Panja. Dr. Panja, you wanted to respond to some points that were being made by Sanju Verma. I will come to you one by one and I request each of you, don't interrupt each other, please. Don't interrupt each other, please. Let's quickly make our points. Dr. Shashi Panja.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, which Danish also just mentioned, and that the action on Nupur Sharma was taken after global outrage. Second, even after the controversial statements, they are shielding. Delhi police is providing security cover to Nupur Sharma. Third, the highest court of the keep quiet. Highest court of the country is
Sanju, let her make a point. You can get a chance to rebut that.
The highest court of the country, has held her accountable, and this BJP is trolling them. BJP is trolling the Supreme Court judges. Just imagine. So she will continue. She will continue because she doesn't have an answer. And about Shiny Ghosh, she was asking something about Shiny Ghosh. Now she needs to know that before she keeps talking false on national television. Shiny Ghosh, when this tweet was in 2015, she was not in Trinamool Congress. So again a false statement on national television about Shiny Ghosh. She was not on Trinamool Congress. And she had then said about her tweet in 2015 that
let me come back. Unfortunately, for the third time, an attempt at having a civilized debate has failed. Perhaps it's my failure as an anchor to be able to lower both your faders because both of you are not listening to me. I have no other option but to go across to Lokesh Jindal. Lokesh Jindal, I'm going to lower all faders now. Lokesh Jindal, simple question. Do you see an element of hypocrisy when legal action is demanded against comments made by Nupur Sharma? And that similar action is not made as far as Mahua Moitra are concerned. In your view, have both not insulted religion?
See, when I'm talking about the legal course of action, the due process of law, it must be, the legal process must be carried out. If Mahua Moitra has indeed made any statement that is incorrect and that has caused hurt to any of the religious community, she must be brought into trial. So I would never support that giving some form of a shield to Mahua Moitra. And secondly, what I would like to point out over here is, it's very important that the government must exercise all the laws that are there. Now, the IT Act 2000, as well as the guidelines that the government has issued for intermediaries, it explicitly allows the government to ask all the media channels and intermediaries to restrict circulation of such content. The point is, why is such content being circulated in the society which is causing radicalization?
Okay.
Why isn't the government taking preemptive measures, acting proactively so that people are not incited, mobilized on the basis of religion?
Okay.
Let the society talk about employment.
Karan Verma, I want Karan Verma to respond to that. Karan Verma, if there are enough legal options available with governments of all hues, why is that action not being taken, is the question from Lokesh Jindal. Please respond to him.
No, he makes a valid point. Lokesh makes a valid point in that case. But I want to ask a question to Dr. Panja, and a very pertinent question. Why did the TMC not act when Mahua Moitra was making obscene remarks about the shivling some 4 weeks back? Look, Madhav, you must understand. Let me call out this bluff of the TMC that we've acted with alacrity. They haven't. The truth is, Mahua Moitra has been a habitual offender. She called Hindu Brahmins as Choti Wale Rakshas. She made obscene remarks about the shivling. Why did the TMC not act then? The truth is, today the TMC is trying to distance from her because they feel it's going to hurt them politically. So can you please answer that, ma'am?
Okay, pointed question to Dr. Panja.
This is Karan. Is that Karan who asked that question?
Yes.
Karanji, I don't know why you are trying to always link a political intent with this. There is no political intent, and we have never endorsed any such statements. You see, we have never endorsed. We have not told her to say whatever she has said.
No,
so we are not accountable. Excuse me.
Why did you not?
We are not accountable. Now, if there are multiple FIRs, she will fight it out. What makes you think that we have told her? How strange is this? No, you can't do that. Well, why aren't you asking the BJP? Why are they shielding Nupur Sharma?
But why did you not distance from her then?
No.
And now you are distancing from her.
Why don't you insulate yourself from all political parties? Don't have a political agenda when you speak, okay? To insulate yourself and think in a very
that's
fair
why I'm
manner.
saying this, ma'am.
Okay? So, if you feel what you feel,
that is what I'm saying.
Wait for the law. Wait for the law to take its action. Wait for law. It's not the party statement. Understand?
Ma'am, the law will take its course, but as a political party, why was she not reprimanded 4 weeks back?
She did not speak from a political platform. How many times do I keep saying the same thing?
Ma'am, but that does not, I don't know, if a member of parliament...
this is very clear. I don't need to justify.
Dr. Panja, let me cover now. Dr. Panja, many would say that a member of parliament, perhaps as a representative of the people, has more of a responsibility, more than a spokesperson, perhaps, because he or she represents lakhs and lakhs of citizens of the country.
May I ask a question to
but if a person is tweeting something or giving a comment which is not in the party's press conference, that doesn't mean that action should not be taken.
As to why they have not, before the suspension.
Okay, I want Anand to comment now. Yes, I want Anand Ragnathan to comment on this. Yes, Anand Ragnathan.
Thank you. There was no statement from them.
Thank you, Dr. Panja. I've been listening very patiently to you, Dr. Panja. I didn't interrupt you. Madhav, I just want to ask you one question. Have I ever given you a chance to lower my fader? No. Nice guys never win. The guy who's quiet, you never give him.
I have to agree with you there. I have to agree with you there. But please go ahead.
Please beg 30 seconds. Because, here again, I'm afraid Dr. Panja, the nice and erudite Dr. Panja, is caught at the wrong end of the pitch. She's about to be run out because when she says we've never endorsed, let me give you one example. The man called Qureshi, who offered 51 crores to anyone who would behead Charlie Hebdo journalists, was made the Lok Sabha election candidate by the BSP. Is that not kind of endorsement?
Yeah.
So when Ms. Ghosh, who tweets that horrendous image of a contraceptive on top of shivling, has been given a ticket for fighting elections by Trinamool, is that not endorsement? What else is endorsement?
Please respond to that, Dr. Panja.
Dr. Ranganathan, are you talking about Shayoni Ghosh? Because I couldn't hear. There was another speaker trying.
Yes.
Shayoni Ghosh came to a party just a year and a half back. This is an old tweet of hers in 2015. She has said it. She has gone on record, and she has also mentioned she was not with TMC then, excuse me.
Okay.
She was an actress.
All
okay,
right,
and then she has
we'll
also said
we're completely out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, we're completely out of time. It's been a very heated debate, and unfortunately, perhaps we've not heard the last word yet on it. BJP demanding action on the Member of Parliament of the TMC. The TMC saying that we have distance from it and saying that nobody should dictate or can dictate to us what action we should take. Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Sanju Verma, Dr. Anand Ranathan, Karan Verma, Shashi Panja, Lokesh Jindal, Majid Hydari, and Danish Qureshi. Now moving on to the second debate this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the London dreams of Boris Johnson have come down crashing. After a string of resignations from nearly 60 members of the government within 48 hours, they had a clear message that Boris is unfit to govern. His inaction on complaints of sexual harassment, policy differences, transgressions in matters of propriety led to Boris's exit. This is what he had to say after resigning.
It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. And I've agreed with Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of our backbench MPs, that the process of choosing that new leader should begin now. And the timetable will be announced next week. And I've today appointed a cabinet to serve, as I will, until a new leader is in place. Our Winian system will produce another leader equally committed to taking this country forward through tough times, not just helping families to get through it, but changing and improving the way we do things.
But who are the contenders that are likely to succeed Boris Johnson? There are 4 names who are the front runners. Here's a special insight from Times Now contributor from London.
We have Liz Truss, the current Foreign Secretary, who's very highly regarded in some quarters. She flew back to the UK today from the Far East, presumably to start assembling her own team. We have Ben Wallace, the current Defence Secretary, who has also attracted much admiration for his handling of the Ukraine crisis. We have the backbencher Jeremy Hunt, himself a former defeated leadership candidate. And then, of course, there are the finance ministers. Rishi Sunak, the ex-Chancellor of the Exchequer, an Indian origin multi-millionaire who resigned out of principle from his post just a few days ago.
And Rishi Sunak, who Jonathan was mentioning over there, whose resignation as Chancellor of the Exchequer triggered the avalanche of resignations against Boris Johnson, is believed to be a contender for the next UK Prime Minister. If it happens, he will be the first Indian origin man to be the British PM. Not to forget that he's the son-in-law of Infosys co-founder N.R. Narayana Murthy.
As British PM Boris Johnson has decided to step down as the Prime Minister of UK, his former Finance Minister Rishi Sunak's name is coming up as a front contender. Rishi Sunak, as an Indian origin man, has been in the British politics leading up to the charge of a Finance Minister's last term before he resigned, leading to the collapse of the Boris Johnson government. Rishi Sunak is also son-in-law of the Infosys founder Narayana Murthy. He's married to his daughter Akshata. If Rishi Sunak makes it to the next Prime Minister of Britain, he'll be the first Indian origin Prime Minister who will be taking the highest office in Britain.
Well, and we have some breaking news coming in. In fact, Times Now has also spoken to one of the potential candidate contenders and Tory MP Steve Baker. He says the new government could be formed by September.
Well, what's going to happen now is we need to have an election of the so-called 1922 committee that controls the process. They will then set the rules, declare the contest. I expect over the next 2 weeks we will whittle down all of the contenders to the final 2. They will then go forward to the membership of the Conservative Party in the country, who will pick the next leader of the party and therefore Prime Minister. That should happen by September. Remember that Boris Johnson saved this country from a major constitutional crisis after Brexit. He saved us from having a hard left government in Corbyn and McDonnell.
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And for more on this, let's take this across to our guest. Joining us this evening, we have Professor Andrew Blake, who's the head of the Department of Political Economy and Professor of Political and Contemporary History at the King's College London. Professor Matthew Flinders, who's a Professor of Politics and Founding Director of the Sir Bernard Crick Centre of Public Understanding of Politics and President of Political Studies Association of United Kingdom. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Professor Andrew Blake, if I can start with you. Just about a month after surviving the no-confidence motion, Boris Johnson's government's fallen like a pack of cards. There have been a string of resignation over the last 72 hours, which have signaled a lack of faith in the leadership. Is this something that is just waiting to happen, given the series of controversies that we've been seeing over the past several months?
I think for a while now, people have come to the view that Johnson was on his way out, and certainly the confidence vote, although he won it, was far from convincing. And had there been a confidence vote, for instance, after the two recent by-election defeats, it is questionable whether we'd have won it. So the idea that Johnson was going to go, I think, wasn't that surprising. It's just a question of how exactly it was going to happen and what was going to precipitate it. And now we know. Although I'd add, he's not actually gone entirely yet. He's still in the job at the last time I checked.
Well, absolutely, and it will be perhaps 2 months before he is replaced by another Prime Minister in the job. But really, if I can come to you, Professor Matthew Flinders, one of the things that's of most interest to us here in India is the fact that amongst the top contenders, the top 10 names, if you'll have that, is the fact that there are at least 4 names of people of South Asian origin, 3 of whom are originally, or at least can trace their roots back here in India. What's the possibility, or what are the odds in your view that Rishi Sunak, the man who actually triggered off this avalanche of resignations, could be the one who the Tories pick as the new leader?
It's certainly a possibility. I think Rishi Sunak has had his career aspirations dented recently. There have been some issues around his wife, and to be honest, it didn't look good when he was included within the UK's 100 most wealthy people. And I'm not actually sure that Rishi Sunak wants the top job. He's been incredibly quiet. He hasn't been manoeuvring, and I'm not sure that he's really ready for it. And that if he was ready, he would actually get it anyway. There are lots of other candidates that are very, very strong.
Well, absolutely. So that's going to be a very important aspect. And one of the important aspects, Professor Blake, is also that with little over a year to go for elections, the candidate who's selected now will have to actually be one who the party believes will be able to win them the next election. And that's going to be perhaps the most important aspect as far as who the next face is.
Well, yeah, and I think that one of the reasons they weren't as quick to get rid of Johnson as they might have been was, although his electoral appeal was apparently fading, it wasn't clear who they could replace Johnson with, who could replicate the kind of electoral appeal Johnson was able to achieve in 2019. So that will certainly be a question. And if we come back to Sunak, he certainly looked like a very popular figure during the pandemic, when he was introducing measures to protect people's income, for instance. But certain events that Professor Flinders was alluding to have certainly dented his public credibility. So they will want someone who they hope can win for them at the next general election.
Well, he was also the centre, in fact, Professor Flinders, at the Partygate drama, for which he, in fact, offered an unreserved apology, paid a fine imposed on him by Scotland Yard for breaching COVID lockdown rules. Do you think all of these controversies are now behind him, amongst the ones that you mentioned?
For Rishi Sunak, I mean, I think he's fairly kind of clean and crisp, and he's got a very good public image, and I think he would be very popular with the public. I think the issue for Rishi Sunak is I just don't get the impression that he's got the fight and the demand to take on a top job like the Prime Minister. He hasn't shown any real willingness or desire to grab it, and to be honest, to get that top job, you need to really, really want it.
Right. And how do you see this facing off in terms of other candidates? Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, Health Secretary Sajid Javid. These are other names, Professor Blake, that are doing the rounds, and many consider them to be extremely strong candidates as well.
They are, all those people you named are contenders. There are two things to bear in mind here, the two electorates. There is first the MPs, who, as we've heard, have to whittle down to 2 candidates. There are lots of different factions within the Conservative Party. all with their own particular agendas, who will be looking very closely at all the candidates to see if they are actually going to deliver on their particular agendas, and some of them will be very clear about that and will want someone who do what they want them to do, and then they'll get down to those two, assuming they get down to two and they don't somehow coalesce around one, and then it's over to the members, and it's what the members think will become very important. Now, some polling of members has suggested that Liz Truss has in the past been far and away the most popular choice. So if, for instance, Liz Truss can get through to that last two, maybe she'll get it. But first you have to get through to that last two. And obviously we don't know exactly how the members are going to respond as well. So when we think about who's going to get it, those are the two electorates we need to think about.
Well, absolutely. And when it's a multipolar fight, it becomes that much more difficult to predict. But Professor Flinders, we have seen predictions saying that it could be by September that we get to know who the next Prime Minister is. Do you think that's a reasonable timeline? Could it be much longer than that?
I would be very surprised if it's much longer. I think at the moment there is still an element of questioning about whether the Conservative Party and the broader political system is willing to allow Boris Johnson to continue in post until September. There is still a lot of debate around whether there should be a caretaker Prime Minister who would hold the fort until that party election process is finished. Or I think what you can really be sure about is there is such concern about Boris Johnson still being in number 10 that the 1922 committee will move the election as quickly as it possibly can.
All right. And you think that's a possibility, Professor Blake, that the election could happen much sooner than we've seen in past circumstances?
As Professor Flinders just said, it's an incredible concern that Johnson is being removed from power basically because he's judged unfit for office. So the idea that someone who's been judged unfit for office should be allowed to carry on in office with their hands on various levers for a prolonged period of time is a really difficult one, and is damaging for the Conservative Party, and they will want to get it sorted out. However, it's still some complications in actually getting that resolved, and the members may well want to have their say, their choice between two candidates, and that has to be given some space. So it's a very difficult position that the Conservative Party in managing this succession.
Well, absolutely. And Professor Flinders, some of the key issues which in fact have plagued the United Kingdom are going to be those which will continue, which the government has also been struggling with, particularly in relation to the economy. How difficult really will be the job of the next man in that seat?
Well, the next man or the next woman in the hot seat will have a whole number of challenges. It's not just the economy. There's a number upon number of different challenges waiting. And of course, the great problem with Boris Johnson staying in number 10 is that in effect, they're what we would call a lame duck. They'll be in office, but not in power. So big decisions about the economy, about taxes, about the cost of living crisis, benefits, nothing can really happen now until there is a new Prime Minister in place, which at a time when the public are yearning for sensible, clear, coherent, detailed government, it's not a great situation.
Right. And Professor Blake, what would you say in terms of difference of approach? What exactly would you think would be the different approach that the new incumbent would have in terms of what we've seen over the past 3 years, when it comes to relations with other countries, or for instance, UK's approach or support to Ukraine when it comes to the Ukraine-Russia war? What do you think would mark change in the next regime, is your guess?
Well, generally, when a new Prime Minister gets in, they do want to mark themselves out as separate from their predecessor. That's very common. They may, for instance, say, look, some rules are broken, some behaviour was bad, I want to draw a line under that. That is slightly difficult from the point of view of a lot of these contenders actually having been very close to Johnson, and only some of them only really discovering the day before yesterday that the way in which he was behaving was intolerable. So that's why it may be helpful for Sunak that he was actually one of the first to jump. But on the other hand, you could argue he was one of the misbehaving people as well, so there are problems there. So they'll try and set themselves out differently in terms of tone and conduct. But in terms of policy, I can't see any change on the Ukraine front. They will want to carry on with the same kind of policy of trying to offer military support for Ukraine in terms of supply. lives. And in terms of other issues like Northern Ireland Protocol relations with the EU, we've got a problem in the UK in that policy is very much set on we have left the European Union. And it's going to be very difficult for any Conservative Prime Minister at the moment, I think, to be seen to be taking what might be perceived as a soft line towards the European Union. And all the contenders, such as Liz Truss, are very much posturing as we're going to be tough with the EU. So they're quite constrained, actually, in what they can do differently.
All right, Professor Blake and Professor Flinders, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening and sharing with us the perspective of that massive change at the helm in UK. Of course, in India, the question that we are looking at very closely, if the next man for the job could be Rishi Sunak indeed. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.
The News Hour at 9 will be right back after the break. The News Hour at 9. You were watching The News Hour at 9. Stay tuned.
welcome. You're watching the Newshour Agenda. I'm Padmaja Joshi. The lady who is behind the documentary on Kaali today reacted on the series of cases that have been lodged against her. This is the gist of what she said. Leena Manimegalai said that she feels unsafe in India now because it has turned into a hate machine that wants to censor her. Also putting out a picture of two folk artists dressed as Shiv and Parvati lighting up, she asserted that this is how folk artists chill in our country, and it's this very diversity that the Sangh Parivar wants to destroy with their relentless hate and religious bigotry. In fact, she even went on to call what is happening, with people protesting against her, her film being pulled out from a film festival in Canada. She said this is, and I quote, a grand-scale mass lynching by fundamentalist elements. And after all of these justifications, the irony just got even more acute. Let's walk you through some of the fears that Ms. Manimegalai harbors and then compare it to what actually is happening. First is that India is turning into a hate machine. What the lady doesn't see is that actual beheading calls, actual calls dripping with hate are being given not against her but against Nupur Sharma. Who's a hate machine then? Second, while she thinks that the whole nation wants to censor her, one would do well to remember that there are sizable section of India's population still supporting her, whereas those who are daring to support Nupur Sharma have been beaten, threatened, or worse. Third, she's lamenting that now she just doesn't feel safe anywhere, conveniently forgetting that it is Nupur Sharma who is in hiding even as we speak. And finally, this is perhaps the most tone-deaf of all of her complaints about India, that what she's being subjected to is a grand-scale mass lynching. What does one even say about this? Leena Manimegalai is dramatically calling herself a victim of grand-scale mass lynching, forgetting that Kanhaiya Lal and Umesh Kole were actually subjected to a grand-scale mass lynching, which basically makes one ask, are people like Leena Manimegalai completely blind to reality? Or they choose to be blind because it suits them, because they can get away with it? How is it okay to first denigrate a religion or generally make thoughtless, flippant comments about it and then play victim? And if you really care about India not becoming a hate republic, why are you so scared of calling out actual hate that is claiming the lives of your fellow Indians?
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Anirban Banerjee, political analyst, Dr. D.K. Giri, political analyst, Anurag Bhadoria, national spokesperson, Samajwadi Party, Saket Gokhale, national spokesperson, Trinamool Congress, Negat Abbas, political analyst. My first question is to Khushbu, leader of the BJP. You stay in India, Khushbu. Do you feel that there is a large-scale hate machine that is now existing around you? That's what our country has become, a hate machine?
Not at all. I have never felt this safer in my country ever before. We are in times when everything is equal. We are in times where we feel that democracy is celebrated to the max. Whatever people say, let me tell them that I'm a Muslim and I say that without any fear. Here, in today's times, we, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from West Bengal to Gujarat, we live in harmony. When you talk about this hate machine, it is those who have this in the back of their mind to spread hate in the country. I would like to ask the same liberal-minded people, and let me tell you that I am quite liberal myself and I have spoken on many occasions, but let me ask the so-called liberal-minded people, where were they when there was actually hate being spread in this country? They were quiet. They were mute spectators to what happened to Nupur, to what happened to Kanhaiya Lal. I want to ask, they might turn around and ask me that where was I when the lynching happened? I was very much here and I was very much on the same TV channels speaking for that also. If you believe in democracy, if you believe in equality, if you believe in your nation, then you need to be here and face every truth and not become or put up a picture of being a victim for all your own wrongdoings.
Do you think it's become very convenient to blame the country when you are at fault? First, basically provoke people and then play victim and say India is hateful, not me, India is hateful.
Absolutely.
Saket Gokhale.
No, India is not.
Quite agree with you. I think, sorry.
Just a second, I think you have an audio issue. Yes, there's an echo.
Sorry.
Go on.
You're asking me, right?
Yes,
okay, yeah.
Mr. Gokhale.
Yeah. It's pathetic. I mean, these claims about how, this playing the victim card now. Frankly, until 3 days ago, I did not even know that this person existed. And they have now very clearly put out this incredibly derogatory picture, followed it up with a lot of other things. They got what they wanted, which is publicity. This was a cheap publicity stunt. And I would say anybody that refers to individuals like these as liberals, sorry, liberalism does not mean insulting somebody else. Liberalism, what is the meaning of the essence of liberalism? Means that I respect what you hold sacred and you respect what I hold sacred. The idea of coexisting with each other. So now to put out I also do not believe that this filmmaker, while putting out that poster, was so clueless that she did not know it is derogatory. Come on, to show goddess smoking, it's self-explanatory how derogatory that is. So to put that out, get the publicity that you wanted. There's this whole dictum now that, any publicity is good publicity. And this individual got the publicity that they wanted. And to sit in Canada and cry victim, and what happens at the end of the day, these people provoke communities. People, be it Nupur Sharma or be it this Leena, they provoke communities, and what happens at the end is innocent people lose their lives. It's innocent people on the streets who lose their lives. Nothing happens to these people. They don't go to jail. One is sitting safely in Canada. The other one is conveniently dodging the police of 3 different states. But what is happening? Poor Kanhaiya Lal has gotten murdered. There are other people who have gotten killed because of this. The point is it affects the common people. Nothing. These people can provoke hate and get away. But it's the common people that suffer because of it.
Actually, the comparison there, the slight difference that I have with you over there, Mr. Gokhale, is that Nupur is in hiding, whereas Leena Mani Mekalai is still sitting pretty comfortably in Canada saying, I'm being subjected to a mass lynching. She has been subjected to 0 lynching and she should be safe. Leena Mani Mekalai has got absolutely nothing in common with Nupur right now.
Nupur has police security from the Delhi police. And if evading the law is hiding and sitting in fear, then Nirav Modi is also hiding and sitting in fear. The Supreme Court said she should be arrested.
Sir, she is in hiding because there are literal threats to behead her. As opposed to a Leena Mani Mekalai, who the worst that she has faced is 5 FIRs. Which is what happens to anyone in our country who makes these random thoughtless comments.
A jail is the safest place to be. You're under police protection in jail.
Okay.
Why not turn yourself in?
I won't get into that. That's a separate conversation for another day. Anirban Banerjee, to say that, I am being subjected to large-scale lynching when people are dead. Do people like Leena Mani Mekalai make fun of one sentiment because they can? Because they know we'll get away with it.
Oh, well, I'm not very sure exactly what sentiment you're referring to here. If I have seen the second picture that she tweeted correctly, she was referring to the folk artist whom we know in Bengal as Bohurupis. I think they're also known as Bhairupiyas in other parts of India and maybe some other terms as well, who dress themselves up as various gods or goddesses, whether it is Shiv Thakur or Kaali Thakur or other gods, and they roam around in the village or in the neighborhood entertaining people and then maybe collecting some alms or
but
food
Mr.
or
Banerjee,
whatever.
You don't get to decide what is hurtful.
She has put up,
somebody may find it hurtful. A picture of Kaali smoking people may find hurtful.
That is the point. Nobody gets to decide. fine. If when people are referring to the way Kaali is worshipped in Bengal as derogatory or
so just a second, if you're saying nobody gets to decide, why do you decide that Nupur is hurtful to Muslim sentiments? Why did you decide that Nupur is hurtful to Muslim sentiments if you yourself are saying nobody gets to decide?
Supreme Court did. I didn't. Supreme Court did. No, Padmaja, I didn't. Supreme Court did, not I.
Okay.
It was the Delhi police who filed an FIR, other police from the other states who filed an FIR, her own party called her a fringe element. I didn't do all that.
No, so political parties have taken a stand vis-a-vis Nupur being responsible. That being said, let me actually quote to you, just a second, let me bring in Anurag Bhadoria also, and let me quote to you. What's interesting is that the same lady, Anurag Bhadoria, was specifically asked, Leena Mani Meklai was asked, would you show other gods this way? What is her answer? Specific question. Would you show other gods this way like Kaali? She says, one recurring question is that those criticizing filmmaker have posed if she would dare to portray Islamic or Christian figure in a manner. I am an atheist who believes in science. I have a keen interest in faith, folklore and oral traditions. According to Marx, religion is opium of the people. If a God created unequal society and made millions suffer in name of religion and caste, the very purpose of being God is lost. Why is it that the moment a Hindu person files an FIR, Leena Mani Meklai is like, I'm being lynched. The moment she is asked, ma'am, would you show a Muslim figure also in the same way or somebody from Christian faith the same way, she suddenly starts quoting Marx. Why? You are all about creative freedom, right? Why don't you creatively express yourself about the Prophet or about Christ?
इस देश के अंदर में अचानक ऐसा क्या हो गया है कि लोग इस तरह की जो बातें करने लगे हैं, जैसे लीना ने किया या उदयपुर की जो घटना हुई, पूरे हिंदुस्तान ने उसकी निंदा की और कहा ऐसे लोगों को कड़ी से कड़ी सजा मिलनी चाहिए। आस्था के ऊपर खिलवाड़ जो शुरू हुआ है, आस्था के ऊपर जिस तरह का जो लोगों ने कहते हैं ना कि उसको ठेस पहुंचाने की कोशिश की है, आखिर ये हो क्यों रहा है? और जो लोग करते हैं उनके ऊपर में कुछ लोग बचाने को भी होते हैं। मैं कहता हूं कि हिंदुस्तान के अंदर में नफरत की राजनीति है क्यों? अगर मैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी की बात करने लगूं तो इनके तो निषाद है। हमारे उत्तर प्रदेश में मंत्री भी भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने बना दिया, जिन्होंने कहा था कि राम दशरथ के बेटे ही नहीं है। और किसी एक उनके जो डिप्टी सीएम थे उन्होंने तो यहाँ तक कह दिया था कि सीता माँ टेस्ट ट्यूब बेबी थी। और एक और है मंत्री जो उन्होंने दोनों हाथों से उनको ले लिया अपनी पार्टी में, उनके बेटे को रम का मंत्री भी बना दिया, जिन्होंने कहा था पार्लियामेंट में खड़े होके कि रम में राम बसते हैं, विस्की में विष्णु है। मेरी बात सुनिए, मेरी बात सुनिए, मेरी बात
राम में रम दिख रहे थे, कोई बात नहीं। नरेश अग्रवाल जी उस वक्त आपके सांसद थे,
हमने उनको निकाल के फेंका,
आपने निकाला ले लिया, उन्होंने छोड़ दिया। आपने रम के बाद उनको निकाला नहीं था, उन्होंने छोड़ दिया।
चलिए मैं मान लिया आपकी बात,
आपने कोई एक्शन नहीं लिया था उस वक्त। अभी आपको अभी आप आहत हो रहे हैं राम और रम में, उस वक्त आपने उनके खिलाफ तो पैसे का एक्शन नहीं लिया।
भारतीय जनता पार्टी ऐसे लोगों को मंत्री क्यों बनाती है? सवाल है कि सत्ता पाने के लिए आप निषाद पार्टी के उनको अपने साथ मिला लेते हो और वो कुछ भी बोलेंगे भगवान के लिए, और आप उनको मंत्री बनाना क्योंकि आपको सत्ता पानी है। हिंदुस्तान के अंदर में कोई भी अगर आस्था के साथ खिलवाड़ करेगा उसको कानूनी कार्रवाई उसके ऊपर में होनी चाहिए।
आपने बात नफरत की और आप फौरन उसको ले गए संजय निषाद के ऊपर। बीच में आपने थोड़ा सा एक पिट स्टॉप नहीं किया गौहर चिश्ती पे, जो गौहर चिश्ती नारे लगा रहे थे गुस्ताखे रसूल की एक सजा सर तन पे जुदा। आपको लगता है कि गौहर चिश्ती नफरत फैला रहे हैं? वो नफरती है, वो क्या वो नफरती है? क्या वो नफरत की राजनीति कर रहे हैं?
कोई जगह नहीं है।
क्या वो नफरत की राजनीति कर रहे हैं?
कोई जगह नहीं है।
क्या गौहर चिश्ती
कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए? मैंने तो बोला अगर कोई व्यक्ति
क्या वो नफरती है?
कौन नफरती है?
गौहर चिश्ती।
अगर इस तरह की बात कर रहे हैं तो जाहिर सी बात में कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए,
पर वो नफरती है,
कार्रवाई कीजिए।
क्या वो नफरती हैं?
बिल्कुल, उन्होंने अगर इस तरह की बात बोली है धर्म आस्था के विषय अगर खिलाफ कोई बोलेगा, किसी भी धर्म के खिलाफ बोलेगा, चाहे किसी भी जात धर्म का व्यक्ति हो, उसको हिंदुस्तान में कोई जगह नहीं होनी चाहिए। लेकिन
नहीं, क्या वो नफरती है कि नहीं?
मैं बोला कोई भी व्यक्ति नफरत की बात करेगा।
नफरती है कि नहीं?
गौहर चिश्ती हो रहा है, अनुराग भदौरिया हो, अगर कोई व्यक्ति
नफरती है कि नहीं,
नफरत की बात करेंगे तो उनको कानूनी कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए। कोई व्यक्ति हो, आप इधर घुमाइए मत, आप क्या बीजेपी को बचाना चाहती है?
मैं तो सीधी बात कर रही हूं, गौहर चिश्ती
अगर नफरत की बात करेंगे तो अनुराग भदौरिया को भी सजा मिलनी चाहिए। अगर कोई दूसरा भी कर रहा है तो उससे भी कानूनी कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए।
आपने तो संजय निषाद को बोला कि वो नफरती है।
नहीं, आप बताइए संजय निशाद के ऊपर कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए, होनी चाहिए?
बिल्कुल होनी चाहिए, बिल्कुल होनी चाहिए।
क्यों नहीं हुई?
गौहर चिश्ती नफरती है कि नहीं?
आप सवाल का जवाब दीजिए, फिर क्यों नहीं हुई? क्या नरेश अग्रवाल पे कार्रवाई नहीं होनी चाहिए? फिर क्यों नहीं हुई? इसलिए उनके ऊपर नहीं होनी चाहिए।
आपकी जबान इतनी लड़खड़ाती क्यों है?
कब बोला नहीं होनी चाहिए?
क्योंकि आपके पार्टी के लोग हैं,
मेरे पार्टी
जो कि उनको सपोर्ट करते हैं।
कोई सपोर्ट नहीं करता नफरत को।
शफीउर रहमान वर्क ने सपोर्ट किया है, गौहर चिश्ती ने। मैं आपको बताती हूँ, मैं आपको बताती हूँ,
नहीं करते हम लोग,
मैं आपको बताती हूँ।
मैं कहता हूँ,
अरे आप नहीं करते होंगे, आपके सांसद करते हैं।
मैं स्पोक्समैन पार्टी का क्या आप? मैं कह रहा हूँ हम ऐसे लोगों को सपोर्ट नहीं करते जो नफरत की राजनीति करेंगे हिंदुस्तान
में। वो सांसद है।
मैं आपको कह रहा हूँ,
सांसद उन्होंने सपोर्ट
मैंने कहा, मैं कह रहा हूँ हम ऐसे लोगों का सपोर्ट नहीं करते।
मैं आपको बताती हूँ सर। अरे आप रुकिए, मैं आपको बताती हूँ।
मैं आपसे सवाल पूछा हूँ, आपने नहीं बताया।
सर्वर चिश्ती है। अनुराग जी, आप लोगों को सुनने क्यों नहीं दे रहे?
कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए कि नहीं होनी चाहिए?
अनुराग जी, आप लोगों को सुनने क्यों नहीं दे रहे?
कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए कि नहीं होनी चाहिए? आप क्यों बचाते रहते हैं बीजेपी को? मुझे समझ में नहीं आता। नहीं, सत्ता में
ये आपका टूल किट है। जैसे ही आप एक सवाल में फंस जाते हैं, आप बीजेपी को ले आते हैं, और अभी आप स्टूडियो में हैं तो आप मेरे को आउटशॉट कर रहे हैं। 10 सेकंड
चाहते हैं कि डिबेट के बाद ये हो क्या? पद्मजा जी, आपने क्या डिबेट की है? भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेताओं को बचा ले गई आप। ये वाहवाही लूटने के लिए आप हमें फंसाने जबरदस्ती, ये है वो है। मैं कह रहा हूं हिंदुस्तान के अंदर में कोई भी नफरत की राजनीति करेगा, चाहे किसी भी दल से हो, चाहे अनुराग भदौरिया हो, चाहे भारतीय जनता पार्टी हो, कोई पार्टी हो, यहां पे नफरत की राजनीति करने वाले की कोई जगह नहीं है। और मैं तो कहता हूं हेट स्पीच की कानून बनाइए। भारतीय जनता पार्टी क्यों डिबेट में नहीं आई? क्योंकि उसको कानून बनाने से डर लगता है, क्योंकि बीजेपी के लोग ज्यादा
3 मिनट निकाल दिए। कांग्रेचुलेशंस। नाउ लेट मी टेल यू,
मैं यहाँ बैठी हूँ, भारतीय जनता पार्टी डिबेट में नहीं
बैठी हूँ। Nigat Abbas, also just a second. Khushbu, before you quickly retaliate, let me put a few facts in front of people. Just a second, Khushbu. Let me put one fact in front of people. A few months ago, Sarwar Chishti, who's from the Ajmer Dargah, he gave a speech saying कि हम तुम्हारे रूलर्स थे, याद रखो हम तुम्हारे रूलर्स थे, हमें इतना मजबूर मत करो कि हम दोबारा तुम्हें अपना मुलाजिम बना ले। एट दैट टाइम आपके सांसद हैं शफीउर रहमान वर्क, उन्होंने उनको सपोर्ट किया था। अब अगर वो नफरती हैं तो आपके सांसद भी नफरती हैं। चलिए कोई बात नहीं, लेट खुशबू क्विकली रिस्पॉन्ड। लेट खुशबू क्विकली रिस्पॉन्ड।
आप गलत कर रहे हैं, नहीं किया सपोर्ट।
चलिए, लेट
समाजवादी लोग नफरत की राजनीति करने वालों को सपोर्ट नहीं करते। ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी
का मुबारक। प्रॉब्लम विद दिस पीपल इज द मिनट यू आस्क देम अ क्वेश्चन,
हम लोग तो विकास की बात करने
भाई साहब थोड़ा आप शांत रहें, आप थोड़ा शांत रहें।
आप ही बार-बार
नफरत की राजनीति पर बात,
आप ही हमसे कहते हो ना, अनुराग भदौरिया आप आओगे 100 डाल गिराने लगोगे, एक्सप्रेस गिराने लगोगे, रिवर फ्रंट आपने बनाए गिराने लगोगे,
किसी को
आप गिराने लगोगे,
अरे अनुराग जी
आप गिराने लगोगे कि
ये मिसयूज है, मिसयूज ऑफ प्रिविलेज है। आप यहाँ बैठे हैं,
क्यों बौखलाए हुए हैं?
अनुराग जी,
हम विकास का काम करते हैं,
ओके,
तो हम लोग विकास की राजनीति करने वाले लोग।
बहुत बढ़िया बात है, बहुत बढ़िया बात है। एक बार मुख्यमंत्री आवास में कुछ टेरर अक्यूज को बुलाया गया था, उनसे विकास की चर्चा की होगी, पर चलिए कोई बात नहीं। अभी बहुत
कंधार ले जाया जाता है।
अरे आप कंधार छोड़िए, आप कंधार छोड़िए, कालिदास मार्ग की बात कीजिए।
ये वो लोग हैं पीडीपी के साथ,
आप कालिदास मार्ग से कंधार कहाँ चले गए? अनुराग जी, ओके,
पीडीपी के साथ,
टाइम आउट,
पीडीपी के साथ सरकार बनाते हैं।
टाइम आउट,
अब तो टाइम अप हो जाएगा। जैसे बीजेपी फंसेगी आप टाइम अप कर देंगे, और जब बीजेपी नहीं फंसेगी टाइम ऑन रहेगा। यही समस्या हिंदुस्तान के अंदर हो गई है।
यही समस्या है। बोलिए, जवाब दूं, कंधार से कालिदास मार्ग होते हुए खुशबू पे बोलिए।
भाजपा को मैं जवाब देती हूँ ना, 2 मिनट चुप रहे ना आप जी। अनुराग जी, आप इतने बौखलाए हुए हैं, आप इतने बौखलाए हुए कि एक सवाल आपसे पूछा गया था और आप एक ब्रोकन रिकॉर्ड की तरह रट लगाए जा रहे हैं, रट लगाए जा रहे हैं। भाजपा की प्रवक्ता मैं आपके सामने बैठी हूँ, बीच में ना बोले, चलिए बीच में ना बोले।
आपके थ्रू देश को
प्रवक्ता मैं यहाँ पर हूँ और मैं आपको बताती हूँ कि आप लोग इतने घबरा जाते हैं जब भाजपा से कोई सवाल उठता है। और ये भी जो हेट मॉन्गर्स की आप बात करते हैं, जब भी अपीजमेंट पॉलिटिक्स की बात होती है, आप लोग जो अपीजमेंट पॉलिटिक्स करते हैं, आप लोग जब कांग्रेस के साथ हाथ जोड़ते हैं, हाथ मिलाते हैं कि एक वक्त उनको गालियां देते हैं, दूसरे वक्त हाथ मिलाते हैं और आप करते हैं, कहते हैं कि ये पॉलिटिक्स है। खाली इलेक्शन के वक्त आप लोग का अपीजमेंट पॉलिटिक्स करनी है, खाली इलेक्शन के वक्त आपको हिंदू मुस्लिम का प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट करना है, बाकी वक्त तो आप लोग आराम से बैठे रहते हैं। आपके तहत जब आप चाहते हैं जो बोलता है उसको सपोर्ट करेंगे, आपके संसद वाले सपोर्ट करेंगे, वरना आप मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ, 1 मिनट शांत रहिएगा, 1 मिनट शांत रहिएगा। मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहती हूँ कि अगर भाजपा इतनी गलत कर रही होती तो आज उत्तर प्रदेश में आपकी सरकार होती। आपकी सरकार है कहाँ? वहां पर मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी नहीं है, वहां पर मुसलमानों ने भाजपा को वोट नहीं दिया, वहां पे हिंदुओं ने भाजपा को वोट नहीं दिया, बाकी कम्युनिटी वालों ने भाजपा को वोट नहीं दिया। अगर आप इतने सही होते, अगर आप वहां पर नफरत नहीं फैला रहे होते और अगर बीजेपी फैला रही होती तो आज उत्तर प्रदेश में भाजपा नहीं होती, आप होते। सवाल का जवाब आपकी आंखों के सामने है। अगर आप सच्चाई को नहीं अपनाना चाहते हैं तो वो आपकी गलतफहमी है और इसलिए आपकी हार हर बार देखी जाती है।
जवाब दीजिए अनुराग भदौरिया।
भारतीय जनता पार्टी 46% वोट लाके वहां उन्होंने अपना मुख्यमंत्री बनाया था। समाजवादी पार्टी 22% पे थी। हम 22 से 38% पे पहुंच गए, 38%। वो 46 से 41 पे आ गए। मात्र 3% से आप इधर उधर करके 60 सीटें ऐसी आई हैं जिसमें 300, 400, 500 की मार्जिन में सरकार बना के आप ये कह रहे हो, वॉश आउट कर दे रहे हो कि नहीं ऐसा नहीं हो। वैसा सरकार बनाना अलग चीज होती है, लेकिन विकास करना अलग बात होती है। सरकार आएगा ना, किस्मत से बन जाती है, किसी के 200 आ गए, किसी के 150 ज्यादा आ गए, कहीं कुछ हो गया और आप इसलिए वाहवाही मत कीजिए। आपकी परसेंटेज गिरी है,
इसलिए आप लोगों ने आपको नकारा है, इसलिए लोगों ने आपको नकारा है। हम डेवलपमेंट, सबका साथ सबका विकास हम करते हैं।
आपका आइडिया ऑफ हाउ इलेक्शंस आर फॉट एंड व्हाट इज अ रियल विक्ट्री इज वेरी 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 गुड। आपकी मॉरल विक्ट्री हुई है, आपका वोट शेयर बढ़ा है, कांग्रेचुलेशंस, यू आर द रियल एंड एक्चुअल सरकार आप ही की है क्योंकि आपका वोट शेयर बढ़ा है, दैट इज ग्रेट। बट लेट मी प्लीज bring it back on track and let me bring in Nigat Abbas and Professor Giri as well, because Professor Giri, when you have somebody who is sitting comfortably in Canada saying it feels like this whole nation has deteriorated and that all of India is censoring me, isn't it completely unreal? Because remember, the only people who have actually stopped Leena Money Macaulay is actually the Aga Khan Museum in Canada. They are the ones who pulled off her film. Twitter is the one that removed her tweet. So you are branding India as some great censor, hate machine, bigoted, with no religious freedom, when the reality is quite something else.
Yeah, you see, I would not like to personalize her comment. In fact, you are endorsing what she has said, by citing the threats to the life of Nupur Sharma. That is also part of head-mongering and vengefulness. So he sees, I will not, what she said, I will not personalize it. See, if she is talking about the atmosphere prevailing in India, she is right. That includes the hate campaign against Nupur as well. So she belongs to this country.
No, she never spoke about that.
So there is an
She's never spoken about that. As a matter of fact, all of her hate, her fears of hate is about the supposed victimization that she is facing. The beauty is that there is an actual woman who is being hounded, and then there is Leena Money Macaulay who is painting herself a victim when all that has really happened to her is that her film has been taken off by the Aga Khan Museum in Canada. Her tweet has been removed by Twitter, and she has 4 FIRs filed against her by peace-loving, law-abiding citizens who are saying, excuse me, you cannot keep going on with this. That is it. That's it. But supposedly she is the victim being subjected to large-scale mass lynching. Professor Giri.
Can I answer it now?
Yes.
See, yes, you are a journalist, I am a professor. I look at the facts, I look at the objective situation. You look at the person, you personalize things. You are comparing Nupur and her. I will refuse to do that. I am looking at the atmosphere that prevails in the country today.
What is the
which
atmosphere?
Includes Nupur as well.
What is the atmosphere?
That is my comment. Yes, it is. The atmosphere is, it is a, yes, let me answer. I mean, if you interrupt me so many times, I cannot. The atmosphere is, this atmosphere is full of hate, vindictiveness, and full of people going after each other. There is no understanding, there is no harmony, there is no tolerance, there is no accommodation of difference of opinion. People are going after each other like enemies. That is the atmosphere that
So you're saying this is mutual?
So I am not worried
Both
about
people
Leena
are going after each
Nupur.
other?
I am looking at the whole atmosphere.
Okay.
2 people have lost their lives. Padmaja, you said 2 people lost their lives.
At whose hands?
I am worried about them. What did it happen in this country?
At whose hands?
Because, whoever hand. Everybody belongs to this country.
Whose hands?
You are differentiating people, Padmaja.
Of course, there is a difference.
People.
There
you
is
are
a
polarizing
difference.
people. You are not doing the right thing. Padmaja, you are not.
But it is a fact.
No, but are they not Indians? Are there no Indians?
Okay.
Yes, I'm telling you.
Nigat Abbas, Indians are going after each other, and apparently Leena Manimegalai was also speaking about the threats faced by Nupur.
Stop differentiating people. That journalists should be more careful.
Right. Thank you, sir. Go on. Nigat Abbas.
Padmaja, right now what's happening is that pseudo-seculars in our country are apparently and very prominently trying to create an agenda, and that agenda is to establish this thing worldwide that the Hindus in our country can be targeted, can be murdered, and can be humiliated. Their sentiments have no value, and that is exactly what Leena right now is doing, sitting in Canada back there. Now, my friend, Mr. Professor just said that there's no place and no space for opinion in our country. Now, when you talk about opinion, my friend, let me say and let me alarm you with this opinion that Sar Tan Se Juda is not an opinion. It's a warning. It's a sign of hate. It's a sign of murder. It's a sign of bloodshed. Now, there is no comparison between Leena and Nupur because she's sitting in Canada trying to exploit the sentiments of Hindus of India and trying to compare herself with Nupur, wherein Nupur is actually under life threat, and we've seen that. Just because this whole drama happened, just because all of this happened, a lot of people have lost their lives, and one of them is Kanhaiya Lal. And the Ajmer Hadin, he clearly said कि हम लोग तुम्हें यहाँ पर अपने गुलाम बना लेंगे, तुम्हारे साथ न जाने क्या क्या कर लेंगे. Now I want to ask, यहाँ पे अनुराग ठाकुर जी बहुत चिल्ला रहे थे. My friend, आप मुझे बताइए ना कि आप कहाँ थे? Where were you when these people were making a video and publicly sharing that with the head uptight that yes, हम ये करने वाले हैं और हम ये करेंगे? At that time, again, you try to mince your eyes and say कि हम तो इस community को जानते ही नहीं है. Actually, that's exactly what's happening, Padmaja, right here. And there's a proper agenda, there's a team, there's a cadre. With the entire planning they're trying to do that, they are actually hurting the sentiment of a community and bringing up a community, and that's my community. I have no shame in saying that. They're trying to exploit my community. They're trying to, create that hate atmosphere in my community and trying to push them, the illiterate people, that go and kill people, go and kill kafirs, go and do what not you want. Now, TMC spokesperson, Padmaja.
Okay, let Anurag Bhadoria answer because you've asked a specific question to him, and then you can ask your question to the TMC because this will go on for too long otherwise. Just a second, let Anurag Bhadoria please respond to you. One by one. हाँ, अनुराग जी आप जवाब दीजिए.
देश के अंदर
आप कहाँ थे?
वही तो उनको शायद मालूम नहीं है इस देश के अंदर में ऐसा कोई नहीं है जिसने ना कहा हो कि जो उदयपुर की घटना हुई है इसकी सभी निंदा करते हैं और आतंकी घटना है. ये हमने भी कही आतंकी घटना है और ऐसी घटना हिंदुस्तान में बर्दाश्त नहीं होगी क्योंकि ये अहिंसावादी देश है, गांधी का देश है. यहाँ हिंसा की कोई जगह नहीं है. ये हम कहने की हिम्मत रखते हैं, लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी को भी कहने की हिम्मत रखनी चाहिए कि देश के अंदर में नफरत की राजनीति बंद करें, देश के अंदर में विकास की राजनीति हो, महंगाई बेरोजगारी पे चर्चा हो. इस पे बात क्यों नहीं भारतीय जनता पार्टी करती? क्यों नफरत की राजनीति को बढ़ावा देती? ये भी तो सवाल है. हम तो निंदा करते हैं, हम तो कहते हैं लोगों की कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए देश के अंदर में. हम तो ये भी कहते हैं कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी के प्रवक्ता के बोले कि देश के अंदर में हेट स्पीच पे कानून बने. अगर कोई हेट स्पीच देता है और धर्म के नाम पे राजनीति करता है तो उसको कड़ी से कड़ी सजा मिलनी चाहिए, चाहे किसी भी जात धर्म का हो, किसी पार्टी का हो. ये मैं तो चिल्ला के बोल रहा हूं, लेकिन आपको समझ में नहीं आ रहा तो मैं नहीं कह सकता.
एक सेकंड, जब ये वायलेंस शुरू हुआ क्या आपने बोला कि जो लोग राइट कर रहे हैं, जस्ट अ सेकंड अनुराग भदौरिया, जब ये वायलेंस शुरू हुआ तब आपने ये नहीं कहा कि ये इस वजह से हो रहा है क्योंकि नुपुर शर्मा ने माहौल खराब किया?
हिंदुस्तान के अंदर में हर व्यक्ति कहता है कि हिंसा की कोई जगह नहीं है.
ना, पर आपने हिंसा की वजह नुपुर शर्मा को बताया.
हिंसा की कोई जगह नहीं है.
आपने हिंसा की वजह किसको बताया?
जो वजह जो भी है
नहीं, आपने हिंसा की, लेट मी कोट टू यू व्हाट अखिलेश यादव सेड, कि अखिलेश यादव जी ने नुपुर शर्मा का माहौल खराब करना वजह नहीं बताई कि ये हिंसा हो रही है, या उन्होंने कहा जस्ट अ सेकंड
क्यों खराब करते हैं हिंदुस्तान के अंदर?
तो यही तो आप बात गलत कर रहे हैं। जो हिंसा हुई है वो नुपुर शर्मा की वजह से हुई है या इस्लामिक रेडिकलिज्म की वजह से हुई है?
ये भारत में, मेरी बात सुन लीजिए, देश के अंदर में बार बार चिल्ला चिल्ला के हम लोग इस बात को कह रहे हैं, लेकिन पद्मजा जी पता नहीं आपको भी क्या हो गया है, आप भारतीय जनता पार्टी पे इन्फ्लुएंस क्यों रहते हैं? मैं कह रहा हूं कि सभी को मिलकर, आज पैनल में बैठे सभी लोग, मैं तो कहता हूं कि पार्लियामेंट के अंदर में जो हेट स्पीच है, हेट स्पीच है, जो नफरत की राजनीति है, इसको करने वाले पे बिल बनाया जाए और कानून बनाया जाए। अगर कोई ऐसी काम करेगा तो उसमें कार्रवाई तुरंत हो, लेकिन जब तक कार्रवाई नहीं होगी, ये लोग इस तरह की हेट स्पीच देते रहते हैं। कार्रवाई होना जरूरी है
सर। यहाँ पर 1000 कानून आ जाएंगे जिनको हिंसा करनी है, वो इसलिए हिंसा करेंगे बिकॉज दे आर,
को ठेस नहीं पहुंचा सकते आप।
अनुराग भदौरिया,
लेकिन इसमें क्यों नहीं सवाल उठाते आप?
अनुराग भदौरिया, the question being asked of you is कि आप जिसको, ये बहुत पुरानी टूल किट हो गई, बहुत पुरानी टूल किट हो गई अनुराग भदौरिया। अरे कितना आप उसको करेंगे?
बीजेपी की है, उससे आप नहीं पूछ रहे हो कि सरकार आपकी है, सिस्टम आपके पास है, आप क्यों नहीं रोक पा रहे हो? 2014 के पास से ज्यादा क्यों बढ़ा है? भारतीय जनता पार्टी के सरकार के आने के बाद से ये हेट स्पीचेस क्यों हुई है? आप बताइए, भारतीय जनता पार्टी पूछे आप,
दिस कैन नॉट गो। आपसे सिंपल सवाल मैं पूछ रही हूँ, जो
सिंपल तो आप पूछते ही नहीं,
हिंसा हुई हमारे देश में, उसके लिए नुपुर शर्मा जिम्मेदार है या इस्लामिक रेडिकलिज्म जिम्मेदार है?
इस देश, चूज। हाँ, मैं बोल रहा हूं, इस देश के अंदर में जब से भारतीय जनता पार्टी आई है, नफरत की राजनीति को बढ़ावा
आपके पास दो चॉइसेस हैं।
मेरे पास चॉइस पूरा इंडिया है, दो नहीं है मेरे पास।
ऑप्शन ए नुपुर शर्मा, ऑप्शन बी इस्लामिक रेडिकलिज्म। व्हाट इज रिस्पांसिबल?
हिंदुस्तान है और मैं हिंदुस्तान की जनता की बात करता हूं कि हिंदुस्तान की जनता के साथ किसी तरह का कोई खिलवाड़ नहीं कर सकता, चाहे किसी धर्म का हो। आप सिर्फ एक धर्म की बात क्यों करें? मैं कहूं किसी धर्म का।
Does Islamic radicalism exist in our country? Does Islamic radicalism exist in our country?
क्या बोला कि देश के अंदर में किसी भी धर्म का व्यक्ति अगर यहाँ पे किसी तरह की नफरत की बात करेगा और नफरत की राजनीति करेगा, उसे कड़ी से कड़ी सजा मिलनी चाहिए। बताइए आप।
Okay, are you satisfied with that answer? निगत अब्बास
करने से होगा कि वो मुझे सेटिस्फाई करेंगे सरकार में, वो यही तो आप गलती कर रहे हो। अरे आप कमाल की बात कर रहे हो कि आप सेटिस्फाई है तो बताओ। अरे बाप रे बाप, हो क्या सेटिस्फाई होंगे सरकार?
अनुराग जी, आप कितना बोलेंगे, उनको जवाब तो देने दीजिए।
जवाब देने लायक नहीं।
बोलिए निगत अब्बास,
आप पूछिए, आप बताइए निसार जी को कब आप उनके ऊपर कार्रवाई करेंगे?
निगत अब्बास,
no, Padmaja, we aren't eligible. Anurag Bhadoria, Nigat Abbas is my name. Padmaja, we aren't eligible to ask this question to Anurag Bhadoria or any one of the oppositions कि ये radicalization था या नहीं।
अनुराग भदौरिया सत्ता में नहीं है।
अरे अस्सलाम वालेकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातहू कहकर कोई वीडियो शुरू करता है, वो radical थोड़ी और कहता है
requesting you।
मुझसे पूछ रही सत्ता पर से सवाल।
अनुराग भदौरिया, एक मिनट, अनुराग भदौरिया, निगत अब्बास मेरा नाम।
This is क्यों पूछ रहे भाई? समझ में नहीं आ रहा मुझे।
This is not encouraged on this show. This non-stop talking. 30 सेकंड की शांति रखिए। 30 सेकंड। Go on, please, Nigat Abbas. Ask your question to Mr. Gokhale now. Yes, go on.
बीजेपी से पूछिए।
Thank you, Padmaja. I am saying that we aren't eligible to ask this question to Anurag Bhadoria or any of the spokespersons from Samajwadi Party. Now, what I need to ask from him is when somebody starts a video saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, shows off the sword, kills a person and then gives a warning to a lady abusing her and the PM of our country. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh से शुरू करते हो, नाम मोहम्मद अंसारी और मोहम्मद रियाज हैं। क्या वो कट्टरपंथ है? नहीं है ना। अरे वो कहाँ है कट्टरपंथ? वो तो मजेदार वीडियो बनाई अनुराग भदौरिया, और अनुराग भदौरिया कभी इस चीज को एक्सेप्ट करेंगे ही नहीं कि वो आतंकवादी हैं। वो कहेंगे ही नहीं इस चीज को, वो मानेंगे ही नहीं कि एक कम्युनिटी से आते हैं। लेट्स जस्ट बी रियल ना, लेट्स पुट द फैक्ट्स अप कि क्यों आईसिस से संबंध आए उनके चक्कर में। क्यों ऐसा होता है कि हमेशा जिन लोगों के नाम खान होते हैं या अंसारी होते हैं या रियाज होते हैं, उनके नाम के आगे आईसिस जुड़ जाता है। कभी बत्रा महाजन के नाम पे आगे तो हमने नहीं सुना. That is where your lie is exposed, that you do not want to call it radicalization, wherein I, as a Muslim leader, as Nigat Abbas, would accept this fact that yes, it is terrorism, it is Islamic radicalization, but you will not, because you have a handful of vote bank with you, because you have voters in your pocket saying that hum minority hai.
I'm assuming that's the same charge you have against the TMC as well. So let Saket Gokhale come in. Just a second, please. Let Saket Gokhale also come in. Why is there, if you're willing to call out one side, why wouldn't you call out the other of radicalism? That is the basis. If today there is any hate in the country, it is because of radicals. Saket Gokhale. That's the charge against you.
Radicalism for any liberal, radicalism of any kind, be it extreme right or extreme left, is dangerous. We've seen the extreme right indulge in violence. We've seen the extreme left indulge in violence. Now, I just have to ask one question. First of all, I don't know why the BJP Delhi spokesperson is being shown as political analyst on your channel. That's a little misleading. Let's at least be clear that Ms. Abbas is the BJP spokesperson. Number two, in Udaipur, the man who did the beheading, part of the BJP. Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorist in Jammu, head of the BJP's IT cell. Now today, Irfan Khan, no, let me finish. Irfan Khan, Mr. Kole in Amravati, was campaigning for Navneet Hanuman Chalisa Rana, who's with the BJP. Now the problem is, are these radicals or are people from the minority community being taken in the Muslim Rashtra Manch and turned into radicals by the BJP?
Okay, Khushbu, answer.
What kind of a question is that? You mean to say that these kind of radical incidents have happened in India for the first time since BJP came to power in the last 8 years? Have we not seen any kind of terrorism in India before? For the first time in 30 years, we have an Indian flag flying high in a Muslim community like Kashmir. And I take pride being a born Muslim myself, a practicing Muslim myself. I take pride in saying that. We have seen radicalization since the time of independence. For the last 8 years, we have seen the minimum number of any kind of radicalization disturbances in a country. We have seen the worst kind of terrorism in a country, and that was because of the Muslim radicals we have had. You cannot blame the BJP just because. Let me finish. I haven't finished. I heard you very clearly. I have heard you loud and clear. Let me finish. Let me finish, I said. If you have the guts to ask a question, have the guts to listen to the answer.
Okay, just a second. Let her finish. 10 seconds, and then Saket Gokhale, you come back.
BJP's last for the 8 years, we have seen the minimum number of terrorism in this country. We have seen the worst terrorist attacks in the country since the time of independence, and BJP wasn't in power then.
No, but what do you have to say to the specific charges now? Just a second,
it's easy
because this is increasingly becoming a charge that is being leveled against you, Khushbu, that in Udaipur and then subsequently, as Mr. Gokhale claims, in the case of Amravati as well, the linkages of people who are involved in these murders is to the BJP. So the charge is that you are using Muslims, radical Muslims, to perpetuate these kind of incidents to spoil the atmosphere. Khushbu.
Exactly, that is what I'm asking, Padmaja. There are stray incidents. People have Muslims are part of BJP. It's like what Zinat Abbas is speaking now. She is not part of BJP. She is there as a person. I'm here speaking as a Muslim. I belong to a particular party which is known for Hindutva, they say. The blame game continues. What happens in the country, it's very easy for the opposition to sit and blame the ruling party for everything. I am asking them, have we not seen the worst terrorist attack by these radical groups in our country before BJP came to power?
Saket Gokhale.
Have we not seen
at best a fig leaf?
1 minute.
It is BJP who has been working for
it is very, again, this is the same term they use, fringe element. These are stray incidents. How did stray incidents happen back to back? You did not mention Jammu as well. In Jammu, the Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists was the BJP IT cell head. How in a span of 3 weeks have 3 BJP people been associated with 3 terrorist attacks in India?
Deviating from the topic.
Okay, again, to try and link, and let me say this purely based on facts. If you're saying that that person, by virtue of having been a member of the BJP and also being involved in the beheading of Kanhaiya Lal, is at the door of the BJP, then Saket Gokhale, you have got leaders of your party who are actually arrested. One, for the burning alive of 9 people, and also in cattle smuggling. You've got leaders of your party who have been booked and summoned by the CBI. So would you say that the TMC is getting cattle smuggling done? Or that the TMC was responsible for the murder of 9 people?
No, by that logic, have they been declared guilty? Mr. Amit Shah was also arrested by CBI.
No, but you are using your own logic. You are saying that the beheading is being done by BJP because the accused was seen with Gulab Chand Kataria. Then you've got actual members of the TMC who are responsible, who've been arrested for the murders by your own police, by the way, by the West Bengal police, not by anyone else.
3 weeks. 3 weeks, 3 terror attacks.
Okay.
BJP people, look at the time span.
All right, I'm just going to have to end it here because we are going to go into an endless circle of whataboutery. The point is that if somebody thinks that today they can try and use the sentiments of one community facetiously because they know that they can, and then try and get additional publicity on top of that by pretending to play victim, that is not going to happen. Because at some point, people are going to get their backs up and say, enough is enough. Please do not play fast and loose with the sentiments of only one community. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, all gentlemen. Nigat Abbas, Khushbu, for having joined us. In fact, there is also a Chennai connect, a Tamil Nadu connect to the entire controversy that is raging right now over the documentary on goddess Kaali. The filmmaker, Leena Manimaklai, in fact, hails from Tamil Nadu. Joining us now is the chief of the BJP in Tamil Nadu, himself somebody who's been in the news a lot in the recent past for being extremely aggressive, his political maneuvers, his political push. Thanks very much, sir, for having joined us on the Newshour. I actually want to start by asking you about something different from the entire controversy, because we had some very interesting picks yesterday for the Rajya Sabha, where the Prime Minister, in fact, the nominations that have happened have a very distinct southern stamp to it. A lot of people are reading politics. This is a part of the BJP's southern push. Is it?
You are a very senior reputed journalist. You know how things happen. So this is purely the presidential nomination, especially the 12 MPs, are purely by distinction, purely by character, purely by the body of work. So BJP Tamil Nadu is very happy. Isai Nani Ilayaraja has got this huge honor from the President of India. And that's how we see it. And I don't want to mix politics with respect to the selection that was made yesterday. Having said it, when Ilayaraja ji wrote the foreword for the book Ambedkar and Modi, a lot of people started attributing political motives to that. So what he said was a fact. I don't think we should connect that to this. And Ilayaraja, being Ilayaraja, is a strong nationalist, very hardcore Bharatiya, but Tamilian in spirit. And we're extremely happy about the recognition, but I don't read too much politically into it.
Now, every time the Prime Minister goes to Tamil Nadu, the one thing that is repeated is that basically this is Sanghi politics, and Tamil Nadu has no space for the Sanghi politics which exists in the rest of India, particularly North India. Is that a challenge?
Here the political parties have become desperate, all kinds of statements they keep making. So Tamil Nadu is ready to accept BJP. That is why in the assembly there are 4 BJP MLAs inside. And Tamil Nadu is ready to accept BJP in a big way. That is why when the Honorable Prime Minister came to Chennai, it's a historic reception he had when the common people themselves were on the road to welcome it. So the only way I can prove it is in the coming 2024 election, where maybe many people might see this as a small talk, but we are very confident. In the ground, we are seeing huge tectonic shift for national politics and great shift for our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Come 2024, will be sending MPs in a very big number to Parliament from BJP. That is the only way we can tell a lot of other audience that Tamil Nadu has already shifted to BJP. The next thing I can argue is why parties like DMK and others, they are coming very hard at BJP because they know for a fact it is the BJP that is emerging as a very preeminent political opposition party here, and all their targets are on us on a daily basis. That is why the attacks on BJP are very high.
be it ideological, be it narrative, be it political. So whatever we do, they attach some political meaning to it. In fact, if you look at Ilayaraja's acceptance across Tamil Nadu, especially for the nomination, most Tamil people, except barring the political leaders, very few, they have accepted in big number. That only shows the kind of response Modi ji has got. Particularly the case of Ilayaraja's nomination is the cabinet recommendation. So people are accepting everything.
Now, the charge against the BJP also is that you only do politics of religion. The DMK very existence is casteless, religion-less politics, essentially the real Vikas politics, that of social justice.
The Sanatana Dharma, which talks about the timeless Dharma which BJP is practicing, it is an all-encompassing philosophy where everybody should be part of the developmental process, everybody should be part of the Bharati identity. We don't differentiate between religions, that is especially for the DMK people to understand. And second, since their politics is about caste identity, it is about family, to mask everything they're using a word called social justice. DMK often talks about social justice. If you look at the word social justice, what BJP is doing per se, that is the accurate reflection of what a party that follows social justice is all about. Be it building up monuments for Bharat Ratna Ambedkar ji, wherever he was born, wherever he was connected. Even the nomination of Madam Draupadi Murmu as a presidential candidate, probably the first ST candidate and second woman, everything we can keep talking. But if you look at the DMK party, to mask the family politics, I can give you 44 MLAs in the Tamil Nadu Assembly belonging to DMK party are either the second generation MLA or the third generation MLA of a particular family. Again, if you look at the cabinet, it is that way. And whenever DMK comes to power, you see the highest number of caste violence. The last 1 year is the most violent in Tamil Nadu because whenever they come, because they believe in this caste-based politics, south, north, different castes, they divide and rule. To mask everything, they use a word called social justice, which people are reading through it. And BJP's philosophy is an all-encompassing, and absolutely we don't believe in differentiating based on religion. And if you look at our minority morcha, very, very strong in Tamil Nadu, very active, very vibrant. And BJP is all-encompassing. Every single caste here is represented, not in terms of caste, because they need to be part of the Tamil Nadu's developmental journey. So this philosophy is fighting against the falsehood of DMK with so many TV channels run by the party, papers run by the party. They keep doing this day in and day out. But BJP is doing it the soft way, booth-wise, in terms of talks, in terms of topic, in terms of meeting people. So it's a matter of time before the whole of Tamil Nadu people will realize what BJP is all about. And come 2024, that will be an accurate reflection of what BJP, where it stands. In fact, we have already declared that 25 MPs will come from BJP from Tamil Nadu to Delhi's parliament.
Now, the more BJP pushes, the more resistance it will face from parties like the DMK, and could that get very dangerous? For example, the kind of rhetoric we've seen in the recent past. Recently, A. Raja, in the presence of the Chief Minister, said that if Tamil Nadu doesn't get autonomy, then they may go back to their demand of a separate state. If this should happen, if the competitive politics between the DMK and the BJP is going to lead to such kind of rhetoric, what will happen to the idea of India?
The DMK's playbook is very simple. When you push DMK to a corner, they generally go back to two things. They go back to state autonomy, they go back to regional pride, possibly the language pride, the Tamil language pride. These are the two things they take it in hand. And if you analyze the DMK in the last 10 years, they've taken this autonomy plank couple of times, 2-3 times they've taken it. Now every time it is a sign the DMK is getting desperate. In 2024 Lok Sabha, the vote share was DMK was historic low, which was at 22%. It was a historic low for DMK. Again, they took up this autonomy using leaders, second rank, third rank leaders will speak. Now, after 1 year of DMK government, the anger on DMK government is so high, the anti-incumbency factor is so clearly visible, the corruption allegations are only going through the sky. So now they are taking something again. But this time I'm very happy. The Tamil population is not buying into it. Every time they speak, there will be 2-3 associations which will come and support them, buttress them, argue with them. But this time, except A. Raja, not even a single person not connected to DMK party has supported. That is the distance our country has traveled from 1965. after the DMK dropped the demand of a separate state after the 13th Amendment in the Parliament. We have travelled so much distance, and Tamil people, all our brothers and sisters know it's an interconnected, and Tamil Nadu has to be an integral part of our country always, anytime, every time. So that is the mindset. And when they talk about Hindi language also, if you look at it, the number of people who have participated in the Hindi Prachar Sabha and wrote the Prathmik exam in Tamil Nadu, this is the highest ever. Across India, last year Tamil Nadu, more number of people have taken Hindi and written the Prathmik Sabha exam. So when we keep looking at each of those data, so what they are talking, it is not an accurate reflection of the ground level. DMK party doesn't want the NEP because they believe a third language is kept optional. But people of Tamil Nadu in huge number want NEP. So A. Raja's statement is just a desperate ploy, again to change, to wriggle out of all this anti-incumbency factor. But this time BJP is very clear, Tamil population are very clear. We will not fall into DMK's trap again.
Now, of course, like we said at the beginning, the big controversy is around the film on goddess Kaali, Leena Manimekalai. She comes from your state. She says the reason that she is getting so much criticism is because your brand of politics, the Sanghi brand of politics, is turning India into a country of bigots. How do you respond?
Leena Manimekalai in no way represents a Tamil audience. She in no way represents the Tamil-speaking population. She could be a Tamilian by birth, an Indian by birth, someone who lives abroad in a different country, who's getting schooled by some other indoctrination, and who has created a movie and depicted a poster just for getting some reviews, or probably they believe they can become famous when issues become controversial. That is she it is. Leena Manimekalai can in no way speak on behalf of Tamil population. A person living here can speak. That is number one. Second, and this is not a statement which Tamil population makes, ma'am. If you look at all the movies Tamil Nadu makes, Tamil Nadu is one of the very strong powerhouse capital of regional cinema. Many cinemas, most cinemas are about national integration, with an Indian pride, with our country, with a strong Bharatiya, strong nation. All those things are part of the Tamil movies for a long time. And second, the use of the word Sanghi, it's a desperate measure. When the Kaali poster was depicted badly, more than the BJP, it is the third parties connected to a religion, connected to Hindu religion, they made it an offense. And for them, just branding everybody, whitewashing everybody as a Sanghi word, just shows how hollow they are in their intellectual output, just shows how bad they are in terms of speaking. So Leena Manimekalai also will be found out soon, it's a matter of time. But in Tamil Nadu, not even one person has supported the poster, not even one person, not even one person has argued what Leena Manimekalai has done is right. Everybody has seen through it. Everybody has understood it is for the sake of a cheap pride. She is doing it. That could be the only explanation I could give you.
But, I mean, irrespective, even if it is for publicity or some cheap fame, isn't the mark of a liberal democracy that we allow everyone to say what they want? If you do not like the poster, don't look at it. If you don't like the film, then don't watch it. What's the point of going out, hounding someone or booking them?
One way of a liberal democracy, we all know in a complex country like India, the constitution gives us two rights. One is the fundamental right. The constitution is also clear about the fundamental duty. Even the so-called the highest liberal democracy, be it a European country or the Americans, that is much worse. You speak like this, people would sue you for millions of dollars. People can't even come out. All their properties will go. But in India, we are very, very liberal. We are not suing anybody. We are not taking their property by going to the court asking for damage. But of course, it's a liberal democracy. But each of this, it comes with a certain limitation. I think the Kaali poster pushed that limitation, pushed that Lakshman Rekha much beyond it. When we talk about certain people sitting in Delhi, possibly in Lutens, when we talk about depicting a certain religion, they get very tensed. They make it such a big issue and people sign it, they send it to Supreme Court judges asking for some other thing. When something happens to other religion, this has become the norm. When it happens to Hinduism, when it happens to Kaali, which is all encompassing, more tolerant, when the boundary gets pushed more, when it becomes very extreme, when a common man gives his opinion, I don't think there is anything wrong. This could be the only country where nobody is going to attack Leena Manimekalai, like what happened in Jodhpur or what happened in Amaravati. Nobody is going to attack. In case of Leena Manimegala, it is just an argument that is happening. It's from a tolerant religion that is trying to push its case, that is trying to argue. You can't keep taking this for granted just because somebody wants a cheap political fame.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the last question because a lot of people, especially the Tamil media, has commented about how you've been very antagonistic, that you don't really share the best relation with them, almost, you know, eyeball to eyeball. Why is that?
I love Tamil media. We have a fantastic relationship. There is no ill will between us. In Tamil Nadu, what happens, madam, in all our press conferences, it becomes very fiery. And anything that happens across the world, many of my Tamil media friends believe Modi is responsible. Something happens in America, they think it is BJP responsible. That is the narrative, unfortunately, that is built over the years, for which we have a very healthy argument, very healthy conversation, ma'am. Otherwise, we don't have anything against the media. They're very integral to our country. They're doing a very fine job. It is just that sometimes the argument becomes nastier, mainly from their side and sometimes from our side also. But absolutely no ill will, ma'am. Just an argument of ideas.
All right, let the conversation continue. Going to be interesting times ahead in Tamil Nadu, given the task that you've set yourself, especially in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. Thank you very much. As always, it's a pleasure speaking to you, Mr. Annamalai. Thanks very much for having tuned in. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, a free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shiv Shankar.
आगे बढ़ेंगे जो भी रहेंगे ना 10 लोग
सोशल मीडिया पर बड़े वार्ता किए उद्धव ठाकरे जी ने और उन दोनों वार्ताओं के बाद लोग वापस लौट कर नहीं आए और चले गए। मैं ये सवाल पूछ रही हूं कि अगर इतने चले गए तो आपने 16 लोगों को ही क्यों डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन नोटिस दिया? पूरे 40 को दीजिए या 38 को दीजिए जितने चले गए हैं, सिर्फ 16 लोगों को क्यों दिया? इसका मतलब कहीं ना कहीं नंबर में कोई प्रॉब्लम है और दूसरी तरफ से वो कह रहे हैं वो असली सेना है, वो इलेक्शन कमीशन से
News Hour at 10. The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
बल मांग रहे हैं, वो डेप्यूटी स्पीकर का डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन मांग रहे हैं। ये पूरे राज्य में चल क्या रहा है? जनता कहाँ है? यहाँ तो दोनों तरफ से बार्गेनिंग हो रहा है।
हाँ, ये अच्छा हुआ। देखिए उन्होंने क्या कहा, मैंने निवास छोड़ा है, जिद नहीं छोड़ी है। तो जिद हमने भी नहीं छोड़ी है और जिद यह है कि हमें जब पता चलता है कि कुछ लोग धमका कर फंसा कर लेकर गए हैं और जो फंस कर गए हुए लोगों को छुड़ाना है तो हमें ये कार्रवाई कानूनन करनी पड़ेगी। हम हाथ छोड़ के बैठेंगे थोड़े ही, जान दो। तो जो लोग आना चाहते हैं तो कुछ तो कार्रवाई कर रही है पार्टी को, तो पार्टी कानूनन कार्रवाई कर रही है और वो कानूनन कार्रवाई हमने शुरू कर दी है। पहली बात है, अभी जो संविधान में जो बदलाव आया हुआ है वो बदलाव ये है, 2/3 लोग हो गए तो उनका एक गुट बनेगा, लेकिन वो गुट